Monday Night Lights, Monday Night Lights, Monday Night Lights. Let's talk about what's been going on at Viking Ice Arena. You've never seen a league so exciting and tough and fast. It simply must be discussed on an equally exciting and tough podcast. What's it called? Monday Night Lights. Yeah. Monday Night Lights. The Tigers, the Nordiques, the Whalers, the Seals, the Americans, the North Stars. Who's gonna stall? Who will go far and earn the keg? Who's gonna earn the keg? We'll find out in time. Give us a holler on the whoop line.
And the Monday Night Lights podcast is back. Brian Piercy here with Troy Otto and Jeremy Coan. How you boys doing today?
Great to be back in the well.
Awesome to be back here.
Feels a little, I don't know. We did a couple non-well podcasts, which were better than nothing, but didn't feel like home. There's something about the cozy confines of the well.
I was had a couple boring meetings last week, and I started digging through some of the archives. I was listening to some of the old podcasts just for old time's sake.
A little prep work.
Yeah, you know.
Wow, that's dedication there, digging through the old podcast.
There were some classic ones.
Who could forget the times like the Macho Man calling or
Right.
I don't know.
The 22 shit show.
The 22 shit show,
I
Hetes
just breezed.
hosting the Goalies show and then puking in my bathroom.
I was about to say I just breezed right past that goalie one that I happened to be a part of.
Yeah, I've never listened to that again. I had enough memories hearing Hetes in my bathroom. So,
Yeah.
anyways, as always, we're back. Give us a call on the Whoop line, 714-75-WHOOP. Email the show podcast at mnlhl.com. Follow, subscribe to us on Twitch. Check out old podcasts on the YouTube channel as well at youtube.mnlhl.com. So, obviously, the season of hell, we'll call it, last year finished up. We did the best we could. It was still a fun season overall, but the 2020-21 season ended. We had the Tigers and the Seals in the finals, with the Seals being crowned as the league champs for the second time, first team to ever do that.
Yes, I was very hard cheering for the Tigers. I did not want the Seals to be the first franchise to get two. So there's nothing you can do except tip your cap. I mean, they got it. I don't think they had any controversy. You know, obviously the Deeks had a little controversy with their win over the Maroons with the little too many men on the ice or something. Then you had the Tigers. I don't want to relive that shootout fiasco. The Seals were good all year. I mean, they were clearly steady all year, contender. And then once the Whalers got knocked off, it was kind of, they're probably the favorites going in.
I would say so, yeah.
You know, but it was a good series. It was close and could have gone either way. And, you know, they got it done.
I was kind of cheering for the Tigers. Anytime a team that trades ends up going far into the finals and into the playoffs, I always like to see that, just to kind of encourage GMs to make trades and not be afraid of them.
I agree. They kind of get a bad rap. I mean, we won. The North Stars won the keg after making a trade, but I think it benefited both teams. This year, I think the Nordiques weren't going anywhere before that trade, and that trade gave them kind of a shot in the arm. It obviously helped the Tigers get all the way to the finals. So
both teams were just kind of sputtering in that 500 range, and we both kind of went on winning streaks towards the end, and they just were able to propel theirs a little bit further.
Yeah.
And it's always such a tough thing in a year that we had so many subs all the time, where, you know, the Tigers, they had people like Fem and a lot of people not getting that full lineup the whole time. So it was really hard to see what the Tigers are made of. And then, you know, someone like Ryan Allen comes back. You have, you know, Fem playing all the time. They make the trade. Obviously, Sam, he comes in, he starts playing really well for them.
Yeah.
McShannock. So that trade worked out. And, you know, the Seals were a good team all year long. You know, outside of the Whalers, they were the team to beat most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Steady.
Yeah. I think the most shocking part, and first of all, the Sam, sometimes, you know, goalie, little Sam's confidence was obviously a little shaken in the Nordiques, and so a change of scenery. And he was an all-star throughout the entire playoffs. I mean, he played great. So I was happy to see that for him personally. But I do think the biggest shocker, and again, don't want to like shit on him too badly, but I mean, it was just shocking. Not that the Tigers beat the Whalers, but that they swept them, and then
in the way that they did it.
Yeah, and Matt Taylor. I mean, what would have the odds have been? Like Matt Taylor's not going to have a point for 2 games after, he was probably, I don't know what the regular season stats, but he averaged probably over a goal a game and over 2 points per game.
Right.
And it's just crazy.
Right.
I think that's probably the largest storyline other than the win.
Yeah, it felt like to me a lot of it had to do, like I said, with Fem. When he was there, him and Judge together, they were flying around the ice.
They were.
Skillman was a steal as a 4th-round pick. Mm-hmm. Who was he paired with most of the time? His line, but both
Skillman
those lines were cooking.
And then Judge and Pfister, I think, is usually how they ran it.
Okay. And getting the trade for McShannock allowed Judge to never have to really worry about playing defense, right? He was allowed to just play center, a defensive-minded center at that. But it gave him that freedom.
Yep.
So.
And like we said, now the Seals are the first team to ever have 2 championships with an MNL. How's Whoop been with you and Ty? Has he been gracious about it? Has he been kind of hamming it up Whoop style? What's he been like?
Definitely Whoop style, which is to be expected. And but they deserve it. I mean, I took great pride in the North Stars being, kind of the winningest franchise in MNL. And I don't know we still might be like regular season wise, but they have 2 kegs. And they've been to the keg finals 4 out of 5 years.
I think that's the better stat, right?
Yeah. So they're hands down the best franchise.
It's a little salty.
Hates to admit it, but it's just true.
It's a little salty from the team that only won like 2 games that first season. But I got to put a giant asterisk next to that season. It was a joke. Proctor went 4th round.
Yeah.
I mean,
didn't he go like 4th pick, not 4th round?
Maybe,
fourth
maybe that's what it was.
4th pick.
There was just a lot of things that happened, where it wasn't the fairness, the eval skates that we get now and stuff like that, right? So it was the warm up season.
I agree with that, but
they still won.
Yeah, and this one validates that. It's tricky because they were risking kind of going, if they don't win, then the storyline is they're kind of the Buffalo Bills, 3 straight appearances, 3 straight losses, but they got it done. So they're the gold standard, unfortunately, and the rest of us are chasing them.
So you got a family event coming up here. All the autos are coming together. What's Whoop going to gloat about more, winning the keg or being a 4P champion of the Essence of Auto Award?
Yeah, probably the keg. I mean, he's just a lovable clown. I don't think there's any, I don't think there's any criteria where he's always going to win that award. Ty might have a chance,
Next year, should it just be the, second favorite auto award?
Yeah, that would make it more interesting. I'd probably lose that one too. I just I'm not likable enough compared to the 2 affable goofballs.
All of a sudden, Mama Auto, Papa Auto, they start winning the award before Troy.
Yeah. Well, the only part about that Dickie presentation that's completely wrong is that Mom Auto would clearly pick me. I think they would probably even admit that.
Carson would win it before you.
Yeah. My dad would pick Ty because he's the oldest, and Ty's always been my dad's favorite. And Whoop wins everybody else's vote. So it's the year of the Whoop. What can you do?
Year of the Whoop.
Yeah, so just wanted to give a quick wrap up on the season, obviously, with us not doing the podcast as much. So let's kind of move on to the 21-22 season. Unfortunately, we did have some players not coming back for the coming season. That included Suits, Drake, Starr, Olivere, Wilkie, and Sam as well. Did any of those guys surprise any of you?
Drake kind of surprised me. Suits always seemed like a guy that was interested, but he was we were always kind of begging him to kind of keep playing with us. John Starr, great guy, but he had issue, for whatever reason didn't come last season, and so I get that, but I really thought Drake enjoyed himself, so I was kind of surprised by that. And I think Sam would be part of the league. He had a work conflict on Mondays, it sounds like, so maybe in the future he'll be back. I don't know.
Yeah. Suits, I think he liked the league, but he was kind of, he wasn't really a hangout afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I know with work, if I think he probably is just like, it's too big of a hassle. Starr, he wasn't here the entire season, so his wife, he was pregnant. His wife was pregnant, and then COVID, and then so you take a year off, and then I think he realized, and the Ottos are the connection to Starr. So I told him, like, just let's not have a repeat of last year. It's like you're either in or you're out. So and then he was kind of hemming and hawing. So maybe someday he'll come back. I'm not sure. Olivere, I mean, I think he's still down in Georgia, as far as I know. And again, I like the Olive.
Did he move down there full time, or was
he
it a
went
work
down.
thing?
His parents moved down there.
Okay.
And then with COVID working remote, I think he just took off to Georgia, and he's been. I think I saw something on Facebook or Instagram. He's still down in Georgia golfing. So
he enjoys the warm weather. We know he loves golf, so I think he's just I can golf all year round. This is great.
And he wasn't I like Kevin. He was a pretty quiet guy. I don't think he had huge connections to the league, and so I don't. You miss all these guys.
He knew me, Drager, Neville.
I was gonna say, wasn't he a Quicken guy?
Yeah. But I'm saying not like deep roots. Everyone's got some connections. And then Wilkie, he's been threatening to retire and unretire every year. Hopefully he'll stand slack and still sub. I understand why we have our tight sub rules, but I hope if you get down to that 9th or 10th rounder and
it's a 9 o'clock game.
Yeah, and Hale can't make it, or Charles or Jim Ellis. It's like hopefully Wilkie will come and sub and allow that. And then goalie Sam, I don't know. He sent a note on Messenger saying that I thought I was committing to the spring. I can't do the fall, so I don't know if it's a work thing, another league thing, or if he's a little self-conscious. I don't know what it is with Sam. I always kind of wonder about that. Like, part of the reason I quit goalie was like, I'm 40. Sam's older than I thought, even though he looks really young. He's like 38 or something like that.
Shit, really?
Yeah, he's older than I thought he was.
I thought he was in his like mid-20s.
That's kind of what I thought too.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I'm 40 years old. I'm fat, chubby. My knees hurt. My back hurt. It's like I'm not going to play the goalie position until I'm 50, and I didn't want to be like the worst. I didn't want to be the worst goalie in the league. And I'm not saying that Sam is the worst goal, but I don't know if that played a role or not.
Well, it was nice to see him at least come back for spring.
Yeah.
So it made it show that he wasn't like, I'm out of here, I'm sick of these guys type of thing, where he wanted to play. And it sounds like hopefully it truly is a work thing. And it's nice to have more. You can never have enough goalies available.
Yeah.
There's always going to be goalie spots becoming available.
Yeah. And he was 5 minutes away from winning the keg. I mean, he played like
he played great.
He didn't play okay in the playoffs. He played fucking awesome. It's like so. I hope it wasn't. I hope it wasn't that. I'm just kind of speculating. I don't know, but
I don't know the full story on Drake. Do you? I mean, it sounds like he's starting his own MNL.
Yeah, it's like I love Drake, and that was a real bummer, because he really seemed to enjoy the league. He was fun to have around, and I think he just. I think he was like, "Wow, this is a great idea, and I'm going to do it with some better hockey players."
And I think that's basically what he did, because he would always try to get like, "Well, you got to put me and Sugar together," and it's like, "Well, dude, of course, but then you're putting me on the second line, and you're expecting me to be the anchor on a second line. That's not fair."
He's trying to do a peso. Drake Sugar line, and all of a sudden leaving you as the superstar on the second line. You're like, whoa, I know I'm good. I know I'm jumbo, but maybe not quite that good.
Exactly. I mean, the big Rick can hold his own when he's got Sugar passing him the puck all the time, but
I really he's a good fit, like, because he was a good player and he could score, but he wasn't like so good, that he was I enjoyed having him in the league. I thought he was a good fit. But so definitely will be missed.
And you didn't have benderphobia either, which is always nice out of your first, second rounders, that are willing to pass the puck, spread the wealth to the guys who maybe can't always finish.
But with departures comes great opportunities to get some new faces in the league, right?
Or some old faces that came back as well. So returning to the league this year, we have Q-Tip, Hetes, and Hal, and we have the addition of Jason Dale, Lee Hughes. And then Coach Brandon as well. So this was kind of a weird year for that. Obviously, I think in MNL, if you're in good standing with the league and you've left and you want to come back and a spot opens, you get priority in those situations. But then, because the season ended later because of COVID, and then also because, spring is going essentially close to when preseason is going to start, we didn't have the time this year to have a bunch of open skates, to have a bunch of skaters, you know, trying to try out, where it was a little weird deciding who those other players were going to be.
For sure. And I think, and I tell guys all the time, like, there's lots of guys that'll throw random text messages out like, hey, I got a guy or this or that. And that's great, but it's hard if no one has seen, like, the fear of the unknown is high. So Jason, like when we did during the finals, you know, when we had that extra sheet of ice or extra sheets of ice, you know, that Jason, Dale, and Coach Brandon, they both skated at least 3 times, you know? And so that's what I would recommend anybody who has a buddy that wants to get in. It's like, you can send me, and I'm not trying to be negative about this, but the reality is, like, if you show up, you got a better chance of getting in. Then people are like, oh, I remember that guy. Oh, he's a cool guy. I saw him skate. Even if they don't remember everything, it's like, you know, he showed up 3, you at least have an idea.
I think a big thing too is, like, there's a lot of times in the fall where Gib has ice on weekends, stuff like that. Yeah. And it's, you know, we don't even get a full 2 teams on that. We might be low. Invite your buddies to those that want to get in, tell them to hang out afterwards, introduce it, especially if you start talking to people afterwards, and you're like, oh, I remember that guy. Like, I talked to Jason a little bit after the one time he played. It made him stick out in my head, things like that. And I think that all really helps when you're looking for those extra spots.
Yeah.
One of the guys was at the draft. I think it was Hughes.
That was Hughes. So we had, for the longest time, we had 2 openings, and we kind of settled on Jason and this Coach Brandon because we had seen him. And then, like, literally 3 days before the draft, that's when Sam dropped out, and then Hetes switched from, because Hetes was going to be in the league, but he was going to be a skater.
Right.
But then Sam backed out, Hetes went to goalie, and then Lee Hughes was the only one, you know, everything I just said about showing up, blah, blah, blah. So Lee Hughes was the only pure wild card. I guess he's friends with Manny and Antioch and Todd and Benham, and so he's the only one that is a true wild card. So, and he's a North Star, so we'll see. But what I liked about that is, one, he lived in Ferndale, local, and he seems like a good guy, of course, which is the number 1 criteria. But he didn't have another league, like, so he really, like, nothing against, like, I don't want Hetes to get mad at me, but, like, I don't need a guy who's in 5 hockey leagues that wants to add MNL as their 6th league. You know, I want, like, this Lee Hughes is, like, he's from Saginaw, relocated. He desperately wants to get in a league, and he's, you know, wants to be a part of MNL. You know, and I put a high value on that.
Absolutely. Know? I was hanging out with Ben, doing some of the broadcasts during the draft, and I was like, who's this guy sitting over here? Yeah. And I was like, man, he just seemed like a cool dude. He's already starting to, like, mingle with the guys, and, you know, I thought we acquired another random guy like Chad stand-in. But
yeah, it was tough. There was a few other guys that people were trying to get in the league, and, you know, I maybe was familiar with them, and another, like, GM or 2, but then there wasn't as many as we thought, and it's tough because I know some guys we were trying to get on the sub to help sub last year, but obviously with work, COVID, and all the other stuff, it's tough to get people in. So, you know, the biggest advice for trying to get your buddy in the league is try to get them in our open skates, or try to get them on weekend skates, stuff like that, so they just get in the eyes of people. So, you know, and, you know, even hopefully next year, if we do have spots open, we will have time to have some skates to get people looks on people or what. But, you know, it's a weird year.
Yeah, and I do think, like, you never know. I've actually, as someone who loves playing every week, like, I still like, I've wound up really enjoying the 7 teams because I do like that bye. It just seems to provide some extra bodies. But all that being said, maybe next year we will, like, there was just no time this year to try to go to 8 and deal with the logistics of it all. But, you know, maybe next year, you know, we go to 8, and then there'd be room for some more people.
And we thought we actually had enough possible goalies this year for 8, and then all of a sudden Sam dropped out too. So it's the goalies is probably always the biggest issue for that 8 team. You got to make sure that you have enough reliable goalies.
Right. And you got to remember, you got 2 goalies skating out this season. Still this coming up season, in J-Flo and Dylan.
Yep.
So.
But at the same time, if those guys aren't,
back.
At least like J-Flo, it doesn't seem like, you know, he's pretty solid now. 2 seasons at least as a forward. Like, you can't just be like, we need a goalie, you have to go back. That's kind of isn't fair to them either. I don't know what Dylan's thoughts are on that, but there are those backup options if we really need it. But it can also, it's not fair if someone's skating out and be like, you got to switch now.
Yeah.
But then it's almost like you draft a guy and you're like, you're a defenseman now. And they're like, no. So let's move on, though, to the next section of the podcast. We did have 2 GMs step down from their teams this year. Manny stepped down from the Americans, and our own Jeremy Coan is no longer a GM for the Deeks.
Mm-hmm.
Coan, what made you decide to step down?
Just life started getting in the way. My heart wasn't in it anymore. The talking about trades, the bickering about rule changes, the should we go with this shade of gray or that shade of gray for our jerseys, and Panny always wanted to go red, and I didn't believe in going red. So
Stressful.
It was stressful. And I was like, man, like, just I'm gonna step down. Maybe hopefully it's an open door. Maybe someday I can rejoin. But for now, it just, my heart wasn't in it. I just wanted to enjoy hockey, and especially I knew I was sliding back to playing goalie, which is already when I skate out in MNL, it's much more like stress free. I get to just patrol my wing, maybe score a goal or two. Life is good. But as a goalie, I'm always overthinking, overanalyzing the whole league. So I was like, I just want to get drafted and
you're
fun.
still in the ivory tower as of today, so you get to see all the gossip and stuff going on anyways.
That's all I wanted.
It is nice for the having a goalie in the. It wasn't a huge deal. We always worked through it, but it did make it kind of more.
And that too,
pure, just
there wasn't this awkward. Where do we draft me as a goalie?
Yeah.
When I'm a skater, that's one thing. But yeah.
And then Manny, I guess the only surprise, I think Manny kind of made it known before. It was like
Manny's been talking for a few years, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I think he made it official. Kind of like the Derek Jeter. They announced this is my last year. Like he said, he announced this will be my last year. He got every away game he got presented with a chair or something like that, or blah blah. But I was kind of under the impression that Manny and Antioch were gonna step down. I don't know where I got that impression, but it just kind of felt like that was the deal. So
I remember hearing 2 years ago both of them were gonna step down, and I was like, okay, there's gonna be openings. Maybe I can get one of them. Then they both stayed, and it was like, oh
yeah. So but that's cool. I mean, so Manny's down. So then Antioch decided to stay. So then that was a little unique because I don't know if that's happened before where we filled like kind of one vacancy, but normally we have this process about how to, fill the vacancy and blah, blah, blah. But this year we kind of just let the guys that were sticking around kind of choose their partner.
Well, yeah, because then on to the new GMs, even Busta officially, he left the Whalers and then he moved over to the Nordiques to team with Drager. And then we had Crunk and Dylan. Crunk went to the Americans. Dylan went to the Whalers. Like you said, we pretty much let the GMs pick their own partners. I think it's a fair thing to do as long as no one had a giant issue with it, because worst case scenario is we vote in new GMs and they get assigned to you and you're just like,
I don't really...
we're bumping heads the whole time. It's not a good situation.
Well, isn't it kind of how Raylan and Skillman got paired together? No.
Well, yeah. That one, I can't remember, but I think they kind of both put in their applications single, and then I truly can't remember.
Really
but I
remember being like, that's kind of an odd combo, like they outside of MNL is their connection, right? So, but that's awesome that they're created a friendship and started a team together.
I will say that Busta has pretty much gone unscathed, but it's like, man, like the Village Bicycle here, 3. As a Duck, then he's a Whaler, now he's a Deke. I mean, it's like just
he's kind of like he's kind of like Marion Hossa there, 2007, 2008, 2009. He's just trying, and every year he got close with the Ducks, got close with the Whalers. And
don't forget about Trent. What's he on, number 4?
Maybe Trent's the problem.
But he's always been a Whaler. It's like Busta's just jumps in from team to team with his curse.
Mm-hmm.
But but it is what it is.
Sounds like Trent just has a good prenup.
Yeah.
So.
And then Crunk.
I think he was a great ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him. I was advocating for him throughout the year. I know he's always willing to volunteer for stuff. He does a lot of reffing. He does a lot of things that help. I think that's part of what you want to have GMs to do. They're not just there to draft a team, do attendance. You want them to do stuff outside of that to help the league. So I think, for anybody who is like, oh, I want to be a GM, to me, you should be doing that stuff almost like you're already in the role, like volunteer to score keep, volunteer to ref, get your reffing stuff, do all that kind of stuff where it kind of shows like, okay, I'm already trying to do that role ahead of time. It's like they say, dress for your next position at work.
Right.
And I will say that the Americans, and granted it was COVID, it was a shit year for everybody, but the Americans, their day-to-day management, it's like, you sub for them and you're like, what's the fucking lineup? It's like, yeah, we'll figure, it's like,
am I playing defense? Forward?
So I do think Crunk will help kind of new energy, maybe organization, get a little more fire under their belly and go from there.
He's got a pretty well put together spring team right now. So
Yeah. Yep.
I think.
And then the Dylan ad was very, interesting. Not because maybe as a goalie, again, I'm glad he's not a goalie because because the logistics of where would we place it, because he would have been one of the first 2 goalies taken. So then trying to place, like, where does he go? So I'm happy that he's a skater, but I guess it's really surprising to me that he, back to back kind of, I don't know. I was surprised that he gave up the goalie thing. But
yeah, you think he'd have a point to prove? Yeah,
I was a little surprised by that, but oh well, he'll provide a little spice in the ivory tower. I'm sure
he's been quiet so far.
Yeah,
because I pay attention in there.
Yeah.
I feel like he was picked by Trent Trent needs a hype man. I feel like that's one of the things me and Doug have talked about. We're not the best hype man, and we know that, and we're trying to get better at that, or make sure we're picking people that could be that. And I feel like, Dylan's that hype man, sometimes annoying, but sometimes not. And, at least he's going to try to get the boys going type of thing. So I think that's going to be the strength of Dylan as that GM.
Ryan Allen just called us assholes and said,
why?
Skillman and I played together on the Keg winning Americans 2 seasons prior and formed a lifelong bond. And
well, that's exactly what we said.
Got matching tattoos.
Oh, give me a break. Me and Bakura were on the inaugural Seals Championship team, and we're best friends now, but that's not the point.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Well, it was fairly accurate how we described it.
Outside of MNL, but there you go.
I wouldn't call us assholes, Troy.
Yeah. Well, that's
for that reason.
That's Ryan Allen's words, not mine.
For that reason,
So this year we did have a new draft format as well. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears of how to actually make it all work, but we ended up with adding goalies back in the draft. They could be picked anywhere. We did our normal lotto, and then we did an actual 11th round lotto as well, because if you think about a snake draft, each set of 2 makes it essentially supposed to be even as value. Since there's odd number of rounds, we did the 11th round as just a total random thing to try to make it more fair. What were the thoughts on that?
So that probably needed to be done, right? And we can say this now because it's 3 seasons ago, but the season that the Deeks won the championship, that really helped us because we had the first 2 overall picks, and then we got the 2 best of the benders, right? So it was really the fair way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was I don't know what the right option was, but at least made it randomized so that you weren't, you got the last of the first round, and then you got the
I didn't even realize that year it happened, but I've always been an advocate for goalies. Like we've talked about it before. Like I like the concept of having goalies in the draft. I think it's more fun. But the mechanics of it proved to be kind of challenging. And I will say, like all the hemming and hawing that I liked what we came up with at the end. I liked it. I think it worked relatively well. However, it's like who was the earliest? What round did the Nordiques take Coan? The 9th?
8th round. The Americans actually take Kayla.
8th round. Okay. So there was a little bit there, because but then afterwards it's like if all the goalies wound up going in the 10th and the 11th round, it's like why did we even put them into the draft,
Right.
And I will say that going forward depends, that could change, if there was like 2 really good goalies and that, but this, especially with Hetes coming back in, there really wasn't a huge differentiation between the goalies. So then, therefore, not a huge reason to pull the trigger too early. So I thought it worked out okay. I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I don't know.
You could just be going for like locker room guy at that point, right? Because like you said, I think all 7 goalies could win you any game.
Yeah,
I do think it added some more strategy to it. I personally liked it more. I would be fine to keep it the way we had it next year, personally. As a goalie, Coan, what were your thoughts on it?
So I liked being part of the draft and kind of like, oh, I wonder who's going to take me. I thought that was kind of fun. But I can see where in the past seasons where it's a separate goalie draft and you do that first, and then you can kind of see, you can help your GMs
Have
kind
a
of
little
form your
input.
team, right? But
And I think we've done that both ways too. It's like some years we have the goalie draft first, and then other years I think we've had it last.
right.
You know,
I liked it mixed in. I think it creates a little bit of
it definitely makes it more exciting for you guys because it's like, you know,
where
you don't,
who's going to take
yeah,
this first.
it's not like, you know, if it's a separate draft, it's like, okay, I know I'm gonna, you know,
right.
here it comes. It's,
Right.
You have your little 2 minutes of excitement, you know, but it's like, yeah, I'm sure once it got to like the 8th round, it's like, okay,
Who's going to start taking
it
us?
could go because it's really like, and we'll see how it plays out. But you know, we were sitting there. It's like, do I want Drago and Ryan Z/Riley, or do I want Kayla Coan and Hale, or Charles Mackey? So
Yeah,
and each GM kind of had to make that own decision themselves.
The thing that I thought was interesting is if you're going to pull that trigger as the first goalie, you are now in the driver's seat if no one else follows suit and waits.
Mhm.
Like you're essentially guaranteeing yourself that last person in the draft, essentially skater wise. So it's like then it becomes after that first person like pulls the trigger, it's almost like a game of chicken. So that's what I kind of enjoyed about it, and I think at least as the Maroons.
So you guys took the first goalie off the board, right? So
no, we waited till the last round, but we had the first pick in the 11th round.
Who took Kayla? Was it the Americans?
The Americans.
That's
did.
what it was. Sorry.
So
you guys waited.
In our head, we were like, there's probably going to be 3 goalies gone. We'll probably get the 4th guy, which I think is what actually happened. So kind of played to exactly what we thought.
And you guys got Pangrazi?
Yeah.
I think you're in good hands. I'm surprised you went 4th. He's a good goalie.
Yeah. So we also held the draft, at 24 seconds. I thought it was a pretty good choice. I thought the balcony was nice and fun, good environment. A Tuesday night's not a busy night for them, so it worked out perfect.
Weather held
What
off.
were the thoughts on the location?
Oh, I was able to bike there, so I loved it. I got a little toasty on a Tuesday night.
There you go. I think it was the best yet. I mean, I definitely like the House of Shamrock setup was similar and equally nice. Little cuter waitresses in Berkeley than Hazel Park. Not that that's a determining factor, but it doesn't hurt.
That's what that's the difference between a $2 beer and a $5 beer.
Yeah. But I thought it worked out well. I liked the size was appropriate. It's like we didn't feel it was intimate but not like cramped. And I like the fact that it was kind of up on the top and segregated from things. So
House of Sham never really gave us our own space. They would just kind of like steal some tables.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought it was. I mean, I'd re-rack there next year without a doubt.
Yeah, it was perfect for me. I got the week off, so it was just like, okay, no worries there. Let's go.
What else have you
They had
done
enough
on
tables.
shutdown? You're just chilling?
Been to the gym.
Okay. Well, hey.
I don't know.
All right.
Run some errands. I went and paid my taxes today. So,
weren't those due like months ago?
no, this is property tax, the summer one. So,
right.
yeah, it's been kind of chill.
Okay.
But outside of that, it's been a good time.
Good.
So let's actually move on to the draft. Any initial basic thoughts, surprises on the draft before we start going over any teams?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything shocking. I think the goalie situation was kind of, going into it, like, was someone gonna? I think people have learned. I think very early on, like 1 year, the Whalers took like J-Flo in the 4th round and paid the price all year just because they were short a skater. And then there was another year where maybe I can't remember. It might have been J-Flo again, like the American. But I think it kind of went. We had some discussion about when they would go, and I think it kind of went how we expected. There might be 1 or 2 that go in the 8th or 9th. And like 3 or 4 teams kind of take a goalie early, and then 3 or 4 decide to just wait till the very end. And I think that's kind of how it played out.
So this is what, 5th season, right? This was our 5th draft?
I think this is...
This was our 6th draft.
Yeah, I think so.
6.
And isn't it funny? The first round and a half goes so fast. And then it just comes to a complete halt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was... I mean, there was a few times, like, specifically the Tigers, where it's like, okay, guys, hurry the fuck up. There's a couple picks where, like, seemed like they were on the clock forever. But for the most part, I thought that was... you don't want it to go so fast. You like a little
bit of the build up.
Yeah.
There were sometimes the picks were flying in so fast. Ben, Chad, and I couldn't even.
Yeah.
We were still gossiping about two picks back.
Yeah.
You know, so once it slowed down,
Yeah, you got to give Mel Kiper enough time to talk about each pick. You
right.
know, but,
How he really likes that pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
roll the highlight clip.
The biggest thing for me the last 2 years as a GM is just how GMs think differently. Where both drafts, I think it was, we essentially were like, me and Doug were like, players came to us that we thought there was no way that players were going to be available, and they just, you know, we're going to take the best player available, but it wasn't how we thought it was going to line up. And it's how GMs see stuff differently. And,
right.
you know, obviously people will be right and people will be wrong coming up, but it's always interesting seeing the difference in opinions on those players.
And then and it's not always like, you know, there's an element of luck to how people kind of gel and play together. It's like you put one guy in a situation, he does well, and then he's, you know, same player, different situation, doesn't quite do as well. So
do you have a list of it up?
I do.
Okay.
We'll go over the teams in just a second, but yeah, I think that's the big thing of, you know, another thing like you mentioned is I think GMs, they have those players that they've drafted in the past. They, you know, they've done good for them, or even subs where they really like those guys, and you know, you give them that extra. Me and Doug talked about this a little bit when we were doing our rankings of, are we ranking this guy because we really like them or because of their hockey ability? And that's always the part you have to kind of step back and, you know, question yourself and try to, you know, take a hard look in the mirror and re-rank people because of that stuff.
So tough guy Panny was always that guy, and I was always like, "Oh, got to take him in the fifth round. You know, he's a good guy. Good guy. We got to have him." He's like, "He's not a fifth rounder." You know, and he'd pull up his little stats and his little metrics, and he'd convince me that he'd still be there in the seventh, and then he wouldn't be there in the seventh. I'd be like, "Fuck, I told you, Panny." But
yeah, the Deeks, I think even this year, they have a history of, you know,
clicky Deeks,
Easy E, you know, coming back. They got their history of those guys.
A lot
of
K. We tend to draft a lot of K folks.
You know, Chris Taylor, Sawokis.
It gets to a point though, especially as you have 7 teams. It's like, you know, there's not that many. Now, if you're on the ends, that's a little bit different. You know, it's like you only have to survive. Well, or even like the Deeks, you know, it's like I just need to survive 2 picks. You know, but when you're waiting the long route, it's like, you know, it's like if I want this guy, I better take him now because he's not going to be back in 8 picks. So, and then a lot of guys are kind of like this, and it's like, yeah, this guy might be a little bit better, but I know this guy, I want this guy, so it's like I'll just take him. You know,
what was your guys' plan? You guys kind of took edge. That was one that kind of jumped out to me. I thought he probably would have been. I don't know if he would have been there for you guys at the third. So he must have been a guy that you guys were targeting.
So let's start. I guess let's start going with teams.
Sure.
We can start with the Maroons then, since you brought that up.
I predicted that in my mock draft.
Just for the Twitch or for YouTube, I did switch over to a draft board so people can view this. But let's see. Our team consists of Sean Hardy, Edge, Turtle, Peso, Q-Tip, Ite, Doug, me, that's Piercy, Colin, Venande, and Pengrazi. So we didn't think Sugar was going to be there at the start. We were kind of projecting more of a Serta first round pick. We had some.
That was a bit of a pleasant surprise.
We had some spider senses that saying that the Tigers did not want to take Sugar there because they approached us about a trade the day before to say, let's flip picks so you can start exactly how you want, which I think I told Doug, I was like, they don't want Sugar there. They want to take someone else. So we rejected that. So it came to us.
Or they wanted you to make the hard decision.
In my heart of hearts, where if they wanted Sugar and they thought he was the guy there, they would have just taken him. They wouldn't have wanted it. So to me, they did not want Sugar in that spot. They wanted Fem all along. So that was kind of my thought there. The Edge thing, we were going back and forth. We thought him or Pete were going to be available. I think we had some Starr flashbacks with Pete because of Pete's league, not knowing if things changed.
Right.
And, you know, Edge, we talked to him. He said he could be a forward. He has experience as a forward. He scored a good amount of goals last year playing both, and that's just for the Americans alone.
Yeah.
So we felt confident that he could still be a forward there, and we just did not want to risk having another second rounder out the whole year.
Any consideration of Ben in that spot? I mean, if you're playing Edge as a forward, I think I remember over the history of the podcast that your Ben is overrated guy. If I remember. Not overrated, but he.
His locker room presence.
Yeah. Well, but you look at his stats the last 2 years. Like, he was a great scorer for us, and he was a great scorer for the Tigers. So But did you consider? I guess who else were you consider? Was it just Edge and Pete?
I mean, we talked about Ben as well. Ben, we kind of feel like he needs another. You almost want him as your number 2 on a line type guy, or you want some guy that's going to be that hard scoring guy, as he's more of the setup guy. We kind of think of him and Turtle as kind of very similar guys. So as our second round pick, we didn't want that. And even just with Edge's stats alone, it kind of showed what he could do, or going coast to coast of he could be more aggressive, a little bit more physical to try to get the puck in the net. And that's kind of why we went into that range.
A little younger.
It was a bit of a surprise at first, because I really thought, I was like, man, Ben's on the board, he's going next, right? So, but the more I thought about it, I was like, man, like he's a really good puck moving defenseman, and you got Sugar in the first round.
Our whole plan is to put him at forward the whole year. We have no consideration at defense for Edge as of right now.
So who are you going to end up putting at defense? You and Doug?
Our strategy going to the draft was to have 4 forwards. We knew last year we were about middle of the road in scoring for our team, and that was with Proctor. So we knew we needed to pick up some scoring. So we were thinking 4 forwards. We thought there was some very good value in the mid rounds for defense, and then you had me and Doug already kind of locked into there.
Okay.
Turtle fell to us, we felt like, in the third round. So we thought that was a great pick. We didn't think he'd be available there. Peso, we know, can score goals. So just kind of staying with that consideration there.
Yeah.
Q-Tip, we also wanted to get more gritty from last year. We thought we were a little soft as a team overall last year.
He's not gritty enough.
Well, was like our only gritty guy, though.
1 of 10.
I'm teasing.
But all of a sudden, you know, Edge has some grit to him.
Yeah.
Hardy's very gritty.
Is he?
Shut up. Peso obviously is. Q-Tip is. Hetes. Like we were looking for some more grit. So
So I actually texted Dougie like that next morning and was like, dude, sober eyes have looked at the draft now. And I was like, your middle rounds, like after your third to what's Doug, 7? I was like, those guys are all guys that I do not want to play against.
That was part of our strategy of grit, not wanting to play against those guys.
But like not dirty, just tough guys to play the
game.
Tough guys.
Hard. So Q-Tip, we liked him as that gritty kind of defenseman. We knew we had a Turtle, like where if Q-Tip kind of gets his skating legs back, we could possibly flip him over to forward, move a Turtle back. Ite was not part of our plan at all, but he fell to us, and we thought he was too much value to pass up there.
Absolutely.
And then we kind of just went our plan the whole time, which we thought we were going to take a goalie in the 11th round. We stayed with that. Vanande, we feel like is great value there. He can accept passes. He knows how to do a breakout pass, which is something we thought we were a little bit weak on last year. And Neville, he can play forward or defense, where right now we have him slot as a defenseman, and we were not planning on that just with that value.
I will definitely the beneficiary of winning that 11th round lotto, because to wait for your last pick on a goalie and then still get Pongrazi, that's nice. That really helps.
Right.
The difference between, whereas if you're the 77th pick, like the Seals, then you're looking at Ryan Z or Hale, so that part worked out well. I don't, the edge pick I thought was a little bit early, but he's a great guy, good player. He did score some goals, so we'll see how he does, kind of as a forward. Then you get Turtle, Peso, Q. I love Ite. I will say that in my mind, Ite has to be a forward to be proper.
He's a forward in our mind as well.
Yeah. Properly utilized. I know the Whalers used him as a defenseman 2 years ago, and that, he was fine, but he's not a plus defenseman, which allowed me to draft him in the 7th round last year. And it's like, the North Stars I felt like we were kind of like a scrappy underdog. Like, I feel like we got the most out of what we had. I don't think we were a great team last year, but for most of the season, it was me, Ite, and Vanandi on our top line playing against other teams' top players, just trying to cancel so that
our game plan for that Ite slot was to have the best defenseman available. We thought Ite was too good to pass up. Originally, we were talking about moving Turtle back, but then with getting Neville in that pick, we'll probably start out with Neville as a defenseman. If it doesn't work out, if our defenseman's a little weak, we'll probably move a Turtle back as of right now.
And if that
Turtle
doesn't
and Sharks
work,
have good chemistry.
Yeah. And if that doesn't work, Edge obviously you can drop him back, and you have a top 2 defenseman in the league. So
we feel pretty confident in our team. I know in the Troy Power rankings we were number 6, but we feel like we have flexibility as well. We don't just have 86 defensemen.
That was an instant, it's like there's a lot of pressure to get the power rankings out early. I don't dislike your team, and like I said, I truly like. I don't see a single team this year that's like, holy shit, these guys are going to run away with it. I think it's razor thin. My point, I mean, we'll see how the edge thing works at forward.
Obviously, that's going to be the make or break pick for us. But I think outside of that,
I don't think he'll hurt. Like,
no,
there's not. It's not like, oh my god, edge is terrible. But we'll see how he works at 4. My whole thing with like the forwards was like Turtle. I love Turtle, but he's not like a proof. But you got picked.
He's the end of the 3rd round too, though.
Yeah,
that's good value for him there.
Yeah. We'll
like
see.
You said with Peso, and then
but with edge, I had edge penciled in at defense, so I saw your 2 scores were Sugar and Peso, and we've seen that hasn't. That's been. I guess they want a keg that way, but it's like they also had Proctor.
So as of today, our projected lines, I believe, are Turtle, Hardy, Venande, and then we have an Ite, Edge, and Peso line.
Yeah.
I could see that top line being
Q-Tip, Doug, and me and Colin.
So, and you're going to put Turtle at center?
Probably, yeah.
Nice. That'll allow Sugar to float the wing, breakouts.
The key to that whole, I've said this many times on this podcast, it's like, if you can get away, like if Neville can be serviceable at D, then that allows you to play, a second line with 3 good players, and then it just opens everything up. So
the good thing about our team, and it's the same with the North Stars, is we have flexibility where we have 3 or 4 guys that can move all to either position. So if something's not working, we can change it up and correct it.
Yeah, I'm liking this team more. On second.
I told you. Sober eyes looked back at the. I was teasing.
But that does, But the only thing about every team, I feel like. And trust me, the North Stars have more often than not been in where the Maroons are at, where we don't have that one proven scorer,
right?
Because I love
one
Pete,
guy that can take over a game,
but he's not.
We got Sugar though. Sugar, I mean, you could say Sugar's a little bit down, but his history says he's one of the top proven scorers.
I agree, and that was him slipping, I think, was a great thing for you guys. But he can. Sugar has produced in this league, but like it's definitely variable on which some years, when he's been paired with a Pete, he had a good year. When he's had some drier years. But
I would also say, if you look at like last year, no offense, Coan, but if all of a sudden you say he's paired with a Coan and a Busta, he's like a little talent deprived there, where you're kind of hoping he's going to do a lot of stuff. I don't want to say on his own, because I think you had a good year type of thing, but you boost up his talent level a little bit more. You get that production back. He's a hell of a back checker. He's fucking, tries his ass off. He's physical. He's that
he
grit
doesn't
you
take
want.
plays off. That's for sure.
It was not. It was. If you're sitting there in the 6th spot and Sugar falls to you, I don't think he's ever fallen below 6 ever. So that was definitely a gift. But
you might see a motivated Sugar now.
As much as I love talking about the Maroons, I feel like we need to talk about some of the other teams.
There's other teams around here. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go back to the Whalers. Obviously Matt Taylor first pick. We got Trent, Matt Lepudre, Woods, McShannock, Sikorsky, Dylan, Myers, Sips, Justin, and Cam is the goalie. Coan, let's start out with your initial thoughts on that team.
A lot of familiar faces on the Whalers. I wasn't sure if they were going to pick Matt Taylor, to be honest, but he did so good for them during the regular season. And the Tigers just shut them down, and they didn't just shut him down; they shut down that entire team, which had Dave P. and Turtle and all those other guys in Trent. So
I thought there was a 5-10% chance that they.
I thought there was
went somewhere else, and they, he didn't race. The Whalers were on the clock, and he didn't race up there.
It's like they were still thinking about it into that moment. So,
and I will tell you this: I know they were looking to move that pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how hard. He definitely made it known, like, hey, accepting offers.
Right. I think everyone who gets a first overall is like,
I think he was looking for a haul where he couldn't say no.
Mm-hmm.
I know he contacted us, and we were essentially like, we'll give you our first and second for your first and third, which essentially is no different because of Trent being the 14th pick.
Right.
And he's just like, no. But we're like, we're not overpaying for it, is what our point was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they got a good squad. Camera's going to be good for them as their backstop, so it should be good. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Dylan. Dylan's a classic goalie turned skater. He's got this good vision for the ice and whatever, but he's kind of got that awkward goalie trying to skate thing and whatever. But he'll bang in a couple goals. I've seen him score for the K-Falcons a few times, so I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at the team, obviously Trent is 14th is awesome value.
Yeah.
He's probably going. He could possibly be a
could've
first
been your
rounder
pick.
right at the turn
Yeah.
type of deal. We would have probably taken Sugar over him, but outside of him, if it would have went we thought, we might have taken him if Sugar would have went at that other spot.
Yeah.
But Matt Lapoudre, probably top three defenseman, maybe
Matt's
the first defenseman.
And Matt's scary too. He's a
Wood.
really good puck moving.
He was a top
defenseman.
11 scorer, I think, last year. He's one of the top scorers right now in the spring. He's been playing really good. My questions start being in those middle rounds. McShannock, sometimes best player on the ice, sometimes disappears, or sometimes you look at him and you're just like, what are you thinking? Sikorsky, game a little weird, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Dylan could be a great pick there.
Could
When he
be.
subs for the K-Falcons, he seems like he scores every damn time.
But when I first started skating out too, people thought the same thing of me, right? They're like, "Oh, phenomenal! You're gonna go out there, you're gonna score these goals." People figure you out real quick, so it's like it'll be interesting to see as teams kind of figure out how to play him. Will he still continue to,
Nick
get
Myers
the
is one of
space?
my favorite late benders. I think he's a good guy.
Yeah,
He can play defense. I think you want to put him at forward because I think he doesn't like defense, and I think he's going to be a lot happier there.
yeah,
Sips, good player. The problem with him is he can only play center. And when you essentially talk about a ninth rounder that has to play center, if not, he's lost, that can be a giant issue, even with the chemistry. And Sips doesn't like to respond. He's kind of a locker room issue. Nice guy, love him.
Yeah.
But when he's posting in general, writing novels, but he won't respond to you if he's in that night,
right.
it can become kind of a problem. And I actually think Justin has actually improved his game quite a bit. I feel like he's his breakout understanding has improved a lot, which brings up his value quite a bit. And Cam, he's had his trouble in the playoffs, but he's outside of that, he's played good. And even last night for the K-Falcons, he played great.
Yeah, I don't love their draft. It's not all their fault, but if you compare them to last year, so last year they got Matt Taylor in the number 3 overall pick, and where you really see a difference in that, it is like that kind of round 8 pick, because I don't know who they got in round. Oh, it wound up being Olivere, who never showed up, but that difference between getting he didn't show up, but a proven defenseman or a Sips, and that's. This team reminds me a little bit of the Maroons last year. It's like you have that number 1 overall pick, and then you get Sip. It's not anybody's fault, but you get like a Sips, Myers, and then who did you?
That's
and then
exactly
you also,
what we did on the
and then
turn.
You had Sips, Myers, and then Jim Ellis. So it didn't work out that well. You were short, to your point. I felt you were short of forward the entire season because you had Sips
needed
playing
one
your
more
second
shooter.
line center. I like the top 3: Trent Lapoudre, Lapoudre, and Matt Taylor. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. I found it. I know that Trent had a huge sigh of relief when the Nordiques took Chris Taylor, because then he wasn't faced with that decision of, am I gonna, I know he prefers Matt. This is not a knock on Chris Taylor. He's a great player, but I know Trent, if you want a defenseman, prefers Matt Lapoudre, and he didn't have to have that. Do I hurt
My
Matt
star
Taylor's feelings by not taking? So I know he didn't. I know he was happy not to have to make that decision. McShannock, that pick. McShannock at the beginning of the 5th round. He's
fair value.
Yeah, it's great. His skating ability makes him a 3rd rounder. So Woodsy, that's a big jump for Woodsy. End of the 4th round last year. He was at the end of the 5th round, and we did have a little matriculation, but he got drafted over some guys. We'll see. I personally probably would have opted for I think a Rutkowski would be a perfect kind of fit with a Matt Taylor, just a little gritty. He can shoot, bang, and rebound. And Wood will provide something similar, but we'll see. And then Sikorsky. I've had Sikorsky for 2 years. Awesome guy in the locker room. I don't know if they plan to play him at D or forward. So we'll see. They don't. Going into the draft, it's like there was this phobia that the Whalers were going to be too fucking good. It's like, oh my god, they get Matt Taylor, they get Trent at the very end,
Right.
And I look at that team and they're going to be good, but I'm not like, they don't look like they're going to be like run the table good.
Not like
And I
last
will
year.
say this: I was actually surprised / happy that Matt Taylor went to the draft. Matt Taylor, he doesn't post a lot in Slack.
Yeah.
He hung out a few times on the party deck, but not a ton. I haven't really talked to him a whole lot. But then he shows up. That makes it so it's like, okay, yeah, you're never sure if he's fully into MNL. But then he shows up to the draft and it just
And a sweet Vipers hat.
Yeah, great Vipers hat.
but it's one of those things that make you like, yeah, okay, he is digging MNL.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you more happy about that. It makes you feel better.
I do feel, and this could be wrong, like I feel
Matt
like
Taylor, open invite to the well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that'd be great. I don't know. I feel like if they would have won last year, it might have been like, all right, boys, I've been there, check that box, have fun, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong, but I feel like he's just going to quiet, he did the guarantee,
Right.
didn't work out. So I feel like he's going to be on a more kind of low key private revenge tour this year, just kind of under the radar, but I think he's fuming inside. Fuming's not the right word, but I think he's extremely motivated. And I think he'll do what he does, but I just don't think their team is as good as last year once you get, beneath that. But we'll see. They're going to be good, But they also don't have, last year they had Dylan, who, is a top goalie in the league during the regular season. And Cam's good as well. But Cam, I don't know. I clearly think they're going to be a playoff team, but not, I don't think they'll just walk through everybody. But we'll see.
So let's move on to our number 2 pick in the draft then, the Nordiques. They started out with Paul Proctor, followed by Chris Taylor, Jay Flo, Alan Z, Eric Lepoudre, Suokis, Coach Brandon, Drager, Coan, early goalie, Busta, and Hal. So I'll start with this one. I actually thought there was more of a coin flip between Pfister and Proctor than most people thought. Pfister put up great numbers last year. Proctor, great guy. Everybody loves him. He still puts up the numbers, but is he slowing down? Is he getting hurt too much? I thought there was a case to be made for Pfister there. I think there was. I personally don't remember Coach Brandon playing, so I can't call that play.
Me either.
And my biggest thing is Busta was a steal in the 10th round. I think the GMs made a mistake. I think they should have made him a 9th rounder, which is great break for the Nordiques. I can't fault them there for getting it done there.
But then you can't call Panny it. What would you do? You call Panny an 8?
The only thing about that, first of all,
Drager was an 8 anyways.
First of all, I agree with you. Because I know you say the same thing about Ty, but if you look at the picks right before Ty and Busta.
So if we look at that 9th round, there was
we'll look at the 10th. They went in the 10th. But look at the 3 right before Ty and Busta. You have Ryan Allen, who's a GM. You have Vanandi, Guma, and who else?
No, what I'm saying though is if you look at the 9th where Busta could have went, if you would have said Sips, Busta, Gibb, Todd, Drago, I don't think you would have said like that's absurd. If that's what he would have been if he was a 9th rounder type of thing, and that's why I say he probably should have been there. It is what it is, so I'm not gonna call fault on it. We live, we learn, whatever.
What I was getting at though, it's like is that you wanted to lump Ty and you make these comments like Ty and Busta. Like Ty got drafted right after Guma and Vanandi. There are GMs out there that would take Guma over Ty. There's not a GM out there that's going to take Guma over Busta. So Busta is 100% of value there. I will say though, if you look back on it, the reason why I don't think it's going to make that big of a deal, if Busta was in the 9th round, Coan is probably Coan is probably still available in the 10th if you just look at the way it went.
Right.
So I don't think it really makes that big of a difference with how it would have played out.
No, possibly not. But
But he's definitely a gift there.
I just know when I started doing my mock drafts after the GM summit, I was like, "Ooh, yeah, that's great value for them." But hey, I think we were being nice at the GM summit with an Antioch.
Well, what happened?
Doug was a pretty good value. There's a lot of guys that were values as well.
What happened was that we voted him in the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And then Panny, you could just kind of see the sadness come over his face. And then we agreed to table it. And then when we went through all the other GMs, and then Antioch felt a little guilty, so he's like, everyone else is good. It's like boom, and then so he just kind of waited it out, and it is what.
And
it
at the
is.
GM Summit, let's face facts. I upset the autos before the GM Summit. We all had to be Mr. Nice Guys there.
Right.
I also made a pact with Antioch and Dylan at the GM Summit. Antioch had 2 votes because Crunk wasn't there. And Dylan, if you vote my way with Doug, I'll vote your way with your guys as well. So, sometimes you got to scratch some backs to get where your GMs need to go.
Right.
It all worked out. I put the Nordiques as my number 1 team on my instant rankings, and I agree with you about the Proctor Fister. I couldn't be happier sitting at 3. It's like I didn't care, it's like
3 is where I wanted to be in the lotto.
Right.
It's like I'll take if the
pick.
If the Nordiques take Fister, it's like I'll settle for Proctor, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But just in looking at the way I didn't love a lot of their picks, but the way that their team lines up, they're gonna. And I don't know exactly who they're playing at forward, but if they play Chris Taylor at forward, like again, Proctor last year with you guys, like you just didn't have the depth to pick. Like, and at one point you were playing him with Sips, and it's like Proctor, he's kind of a floater cherry picker. So it's like if they pair him with Chris Taylor will work very hard, which will allow Proctor to float.
Or Floreno.
Yeah,
right?
or
Great.
one of the two. And then you got a second line of, Alan Z and J Flo. And then they just have 4 boring defensemen, Lapudre, Sukas, Panny, and I'm assuming they're going to play this coach Brandon at D.
Yeah.
So it's like they got Proctor and Chris Taylor. They got J Flo and Alan Z. I mean, they got 2 good lines, 4 boring D, good goalie.
I think it could be a team that just kind of doesn't go out and just rocks the
I was
world
going to say,
every
Coan,
week. But
obviously as a D, what's your initial thoughts of the team?
yeah, well, I told the boys in the chat, I said, I feel like that freshman who goes away to school and then returns right back after welcome week because he missed it. So
do you feel like the graduating senior who's now got the job in the city
yeah.
and you're still hanging out with all the boys?
You know
and
what? That might be a better analogy, right? Like, oh, boys, I still go to school here.
Was it a little weird then? Like, were you ready to try another team? Is it good to be back? Like, how was that whole feeling?
I was ready to try something else out, go work for someone else, but I had a gut feeling that they were getting ready to take a goalie, and I knew Paney was sitting behind me, and I looked back at him. He just locks eyes with me, and I'm like, okay. And then he starts waving me over, and I'm like, it's time to get picked.
As soon as like, you're not going to wave him over and then be like, nah, bro, we're not going to take you. So it's like, I'm just like, okay, put Coan up on the board. And it kind of worked out. It felt like it was meant to be.
And then he let me go up there and make my own picks. So that was kind of fun. But I think they have a great team. I think it's a team that's probably not going to go out there and just, like the Whalers last year, where it's like, I got to start every game with 2 points just to stand a chance with these guys. But I think they're going to go out there and probably have a chance to win every week.
Yeah. I will say, as much as I love Eric Lapudre, I thought that was a little early I thought there were some better defenseman options than I thought that was a little, Eric was like you have your first wave of defensemen. And, I know Edge is playing forward this year, but you got your Edge, your Matt Lapudre, your Rubel, and then you have and I agree with Piercy and everybody. Like, we went from having no defensemen to just like a girth of
too many
5th, 6th, 7th round defensemen that are all very similar. So, so for Eric to be kind of the first of that second wave off the board, I thought was a little bit too early. But like, I probably would have taken maybe a Shepherd in front of him, or whatever. But it's not going to hurt you.
Playing goalie now that I get to be the goalie for that team, that's in those positions. Probably if I would have been in the Deeks war room, I would have been in Paney's ear trying to grab those guys, right? Because there's certain guys I'd like to have playing in front of me. Yeah, I trust them. I know what they're going to do. They're going to show up every week.
That's the big thing with the number 1 ranking that I don't know if I can agree with. I don't know who my like Troy was saying. There's so many teams that are close together. It's hard for me to say. But when I'm looking at, in my mind, Eric Lapudre, Suwokis, Coach Brandon, Drager, I see that as a possible issue at defense. And I don't know Brandon, to be fair. Yeah, I'm thinking of him as that 7th round guy.
You're right. I think
it could, but they do have they could play. Alan Z could go back if it doesn't work, and then you could put like Coach Brandon's going to be okay. He's not great. I agree with you. Like, if they, I don't think that's like this awesome decor. But I look at the Whalers last year. They're 4
forwards carry
their
the way.
forwards were like they're just a boring D, and because they have good forwards, they don't have to be great.
Yeah. And you got to look at the two guys that they're planning to have playing center, Chris Taylor and Floreno.
Yeah.
Both those guys are basically having a third defenseman out there.
Yeah.
They're amazing back checkers.
Yeah.
John's one of the hardest back checkers.
They just don't have a guy that's going to rush the puck, make that first breakout pass, but they're not going to get burnt. They're just boringly kind of solid. So,
dump the puck into the center and let
it's
Proctor take away.
And it's worked for them before. I mean, Panny, like, he's predictable. He chucks it up the board, but it's like then you got Proctor out there floating.
Chip.
Yep. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, I had to put somebody number one, and it was the day after, and I put him there. But it's like,
and you know what, a guy I don't know what he's doing to improve his shot. Maybe he's doing nothing, and it's just all coming together. But Alan Z has really developed that little. Not a wrist shot, not quite a full wind up slap shot, just that that three-quarter swing.
Alan Z's got a hell of a shot. That's not what he needs to work on. That's where we halfway through the year, 3/4 through the year, we put him at forward, and he started scoring left, right.
And he doesn't do it by making a bunch of moves. He just kind of comes in.
No, he's
he's got a
from
quick release on
the
that
top
shot.
of the circle. He just rips it into that corner, and the goalie can't stop it.
Yep.
But let's move on to the North Stars. So first round pick, we have Pfister, followed by Rubel, Rattler. We got Chad, Troy, Lee, Pellet, Bauer, Gibb, Ty, and Riley. So my big surprise looking at that was second round pick Rubel. I mean, he actually last year he was pretty low on me and Doug's board where we were probably never going to draft him, but last year watching him play, watching what he did to Matt Taylor, and then also playing with him on the K-Falcons, he moved up our board a ton. But is that too early for a defenseman?
Well, it's like the problem is we lost with losing Suits and Drake. There weren't I didn't, as much as I love being in number 3 for the first round, there was no unless Pete or Ben or Judge kind of slipped to us, I kind of wanted to take a forward there, but it's like, is Ratliff good enough to take in the Ratliff's historically been slot him in there third round grinder, and he's been awesome at that. So it's like, does he bump up to the second round? I considered J-Flow possibly if we went forward, or Chris Taylor, but I didn't see any of these, I didn't, and I don't know. It's like I didn't know who we were going to take until the day of, because I didn't know who was going to fall. And we really liked Rubel, and I thought that there was a better chance of, I didn't have much differentiation between Chris Taylor, J-Flow, and Ratliff. So I just figured we'd get one of those guys around, and then it wound up being Ratliff. But if we would have gotten J-Flow, and we kind of wanted Rattler, and I figured the Deeks would take J-Flow because he's kind of their boy. So kind of thought that, and I thought the Whalers would take Chris Taylor. So I thought my best chance of getting Rattler, I have a better chance of getting Rattler in the third round than Rubel in the third round. Yeah. And it just kind of worked out that way. But yeah, it's a little high for him. We had Matt Lapoudre last year, and he was awesome. But
it helps when you have that one defenseman that can just break out the puck no matter what.
But I think we just we had Rubel the year before. I mean, they're this close, but I feel like Rubel, I think it's kind of just league knowledge. I feel like he scores a little bit more than
he had a nice coast to coast on me last week.
So I don't know, but we could have taken Matt Lapoudre there too. But we went with Rubel and then Ratliff.
So at pick 40, you guys took Lee. What was the thought there?
I was ecstatic when he fell. Well, first because he walked. I don't know anything about the guy other than what was posted in the ivory tower. But when we got to that point, my options were Lee, Sukas, Sikorsky, Coach Brandon, Pellet. So I know what those guys are, and there's no scenario where Sukas is going to wind up being a fourth round player. There's no scenario where Sikorsky is going to be a fourth round player. But Lee, from reading his bio, he played hockey growing up as a kid. He said through Pee-wees or something like that. So, and then he played college lacrosse.
Okay,
so took a break from hockey. Yeah, so he played hockey growing up. He's an athlete. He looked like he was he looked like a hockey player. So I figured I don't see a scenario where it's like, oh my God, this guy sucks. And there's a chance, I'm not saying it will, but there's a chance he has upside. and I'm not taking anything away from Sukas or Sikorsky because they're both good players, but they don't. You know what they are? They've been in the league long enough. It's like,
And honestly, we so after we took Q-Tip and we were looking who was available, we thought Ike was going to be gone.
and you're looking at them.
So we actually, Doug went over and talked to Manny and Lee to try to get some more backstory.
Yeah.
But then it was like, wait, Ike's still there?
Yeah.
So we pulled the trigger on there. But he was probably our other consideration at that point. And according to Doug, he's like, he seemed fired up. He seemed good.
He's,
like,
I mean, he showed up. He fit right in. It's like to know nobody other than a couple guys. So I'm really excited about Lee. And to be honest with you, the way Whoop had a boner for Jason, like the new guy, I thought for sure that the Seals were going to take Lee.
Yeah.
Because Todd kind of known. So when he ran up there and took Joe Ellis, I was literally in my mind. I was like, fuck yeah, because we also needed a defenseman. So we'll see. So I'm excited about that pick. And then I like, Pellet in years past was just kind of a grindy forward, but he proved this year with the Tigers that he can play D and be serviceable. And then we made that trade to jump up and get Bauer, so pretty happy with how. And then we got Gibb very late, and Gibb is a guy similar to Neville, that we could, if you can put your last pick, at D, then that frees things up. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, pretty happy. And then Riley's been a North Star now for, we traded for him. He won a keg, was with us last year. He shows up every week, no drama. We are happy to get Riley again.
So you guys would have had the 54th pick. Instead, you jumped up to the 49th pick to get Bauer. What was your thinking there? Did you think he was going to be available? Was that enough to give up? Not enough to give up? Like, what were your thinking behind that? Because I was kind of surprised to trade in the middle of the draft.
Was not anticipating that. But they were at that pick, and they had to take Crunk. So they had the Americans, and then the Maroons. You guys, I think, were locked in, correct, with Piercy. And so we had and then the Tigers had a pick, and then the Seals had a pick. So I wasn't anticipating to make the trade, but they were really hemming and hawing at that point.
Did they approach you, or did you approach them?
No, I saw them hemming and hawing. I know that Antioch, I think, wanted to take Manny, but Math, to me, I thought in my mock drafts that the Americans would take Manny, and then I had Math and Bauer as the last two defensemen available.
Not bad.
And then I love both. I would have been happy with both of those guys. And then that left us with Weaver, and I was gonna take Weaver. But I think Weaver, even though he's a team guy and says that he will play D, it's like I think he's happier.
He wants to be a forward type of guy.
Yeah. Exactly. So when I saw them hemming and hawing, I'm like, hey, if you don't know who you want to take here, we'll flop picks. You can get Manny. Manny will be there with our pick, and then I was happy to get Bauer because he's turned out to be a serviceable defenseman. And let's face it, the North Stars are a unique team. I'm overly intense, and so Bauer completely embraced being a North Star. So I want guys that I was ecstatic to get Bauer, and then it worked out well for them because then they wound up not taking Manny because the Seals took Manny, but so they wound up getting Kayla.
Right.
And then they wound up getting Weaver. Then they moved up and got Weaver in the 10th round, which I thought was really great value for Weaver. So I thought that trade actually worked out well for them. Mm-hmm. And then we got Gibb instead of we probably would have, had we stayed there, we probably would have gotten like a Drago, and I love Drago. So
was it just me, or was it the Americans and Tigers taking the most time between picks?
That's what I said. I mean,
does that mean they weren't prepared, or they were just really thinking about all their options?
I can't imagine Skillman not being prepared. That just for the amount of effort he puts into it. But I don't know if it's just like dissension amongst the two of them, and I don't know, or just being super careful, or maybe the waitress came.
Weighing out all the options.
Yeah,
right.
But you're right. Those two teams were definitely the slowest.
Yeah, I don't know how other teams do it, but I know me and Doug. I went over to Doug's house. We went through all the options. We kind of rank ourselves. We've actually been pretty aligned on most guys overall, but then it's like we meet up, we talk about stuff, we kind of hash things out, and like, okay, let's get our alignment. So we try to be like,
that's what Panny and I used to do, right?
Here's where we're going. Like,
we try
anything
to develop
happens, we got our board,
right? And it's like, okay,
I mean,
here's where I want to take a defenseman.
Despite their strong bond, based on being on the Americans together. I don't think Skillman and Ryan Allen were meeting together at their houses for their pregame prep. So maybe they were having their not dissension, but maybe they were hashing it out on the fly. It's the only thing I can think of. I know Crunk and Antioch were definitely like, they weren't just like chilling, having beers. I mean, they were really hemming and hawing on some of their picks, not all of them, but it is what it is. But anyways, North Stars are, we're in the mix. I feel like we're in the mix.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on to the Seals then. We have Shawnee, Pete, Jason Dale, Jason Wells, Rakowski. We got Joe Ellis, Leroy, Manny. We got Todd, Jim Ellis, and Ryan Z. So very interesting team here. I think the big pick here is going to be third rounder Jason Dale.
Potentially, right? It same with what Troy was just talking about, right? Will he end up being, you're drafting without knowing what you're getting, right? So you're at least getting a guy who's going to score a couple goals, but he could be a second rounder next year, right? And that was kind of last year with the Deeks when we took Drake. I think if Drake was still in this league, he probably would have been a first rounder this year when we took him in the second last year. So it's a risk you take. It's Shawnee and then Pete, you said, right?
Yeah, Shawnee, Pete. I think the big thing with Jason is when I saw him skate, I had him slightly above Brawny.
Oh.
Which isn't quite a Jason Dale, but from his background, sounds like he could improve, to be in that third round.
I don't know.
But it kind of felt like to me, third round was his upside. So
right.
And there was also the thing of, kind of looking at their draft, thinking like, okay, that fourth round pick by the Whalers is kind of like, that's that Jason, like, that's where he's going. It's almost like the Rakowski pick last year. Like me and Doug, like Doug's like, I know him. He fits here. We're going to do, the Allen Z, the Rakowski type pick.
Yeah.
It felt like that's where he was like primed to go in that pick range. But then I was just surprised in, the Joe Ellis pick, he's one of those guys where sometimes you give him the puck. He's like an Allen Z guy.
He's got a
great fucking shot. He'll put it in the net. He does miss quite a bit of games type of thing. So my biggest concerns with that team right now is, obviously Pete. It seems like Pete's going to be in the league. He's going to be in the league.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And one of the things
he'll pull his kid right out of Birmingham. We'll put him into Royal Oak or something.
Well, one of the things that I think partially Pete, obviously there's a lot of ego when it comes to the draft of like, the higher I get drafted, the better I am, the better I look type of thing. But Pete's a smart guy. And he knows the lower I get drafted, probably the better my team's going to be. But he was like kind of like
and he'll get to sub a lot. He's going to sub a ton this year.
In the second round?
Exactly. Absolutely. But part of it was almost like, he's almost just like, don't draft me. It's just like, you're acting that way. You acting like you don't want us to draft you. Do I want to pick you if you're going to be anti us drafting you?
Right.
Like not a whole lot when we have a guy who's kind of like right in your range type of thing. We'll go with the other guy. We want a happy locker room. We want guys that want to be on our team type of thing. So there's that. But obviously the Jason Dale is going to be the big pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning on taking Jason Dale in the fourth round. Just from what I saw from him, because I thought similar to Hughes, it's like he's not going to hurt me there, and he might have some upside. Where they took him, like there's no upside. I think he'll be fine there. I don't think he's going to hurt him, but they took him so high that's like basically they're taking like the best case scenario.
Right.
So
they're hoping for the best.
Yeah. So, but it didn't really. I mean, I don't think it really hurt them. Because they wound up, I think the Rutkowski falling to them in the fifth was a very nice deal. Jason Wells, I think, is going to have a kind of a bounce back year. I think he was just kind of lost on the Americans were such a shit show. Like they just couldn't get any. They couldn't get any chemistry going. But he's got some sandpaper to him.
Yep.
So I think he'll work out well. I was probably if the Seals took. I thought the Seals would take that Jason Dale in the fourth round. So we were probably going to take Wells. But then we wound up with Chad. But the Rutkowski pick was good. The Joe Ellis one, we'll see. But again, with Whoop being able to play defense, the Seals have that that luxury of having a line with 3 players. So if you put Joe Ellis as the third, we won a keg with Joe Ellis as the
Your third player.
forward.
Yep.
So if Joe Ellis has to be like, if it's good player, Joe Ellis and a bender, Joe struggles on that because he's not like foot speed fast and he needs someone else to set him up. But if you put him with, if he's on a line with Shawnee, Rutkowski, and Joe Ellis, well, fuck, he's going to have a great year.
Yeah.
So I don't love that Joe Ellis pick for most teams, but the Seals kind of have that luxury where I think he'll be good.
Yeah.
And then they got Leroy. The only good thing, for the rest of the league is that, Ryan Z, like, he played awesome in the playoffs because he brought his kid to every game. But in regular season, Ryan Z was just average, so.
So how did you guys establish the Shawnee pick? Was that part of the lottery and then wherever they went in the first round?
No, we assigned him. In previous years, we've always assigned Shawnee to kind of the 5th, 6th, or 7th. But it's a combination of him continuing to get fucking better.
Yeah,
and then with no suits, not that Drake was a first rounder, but with suits dropping and him just getting better, it's like there's no way if Shawnee was in the draft, there's no way he goes later than 4th. So we just slot him at 4th. And then with them, Pete, falling to them in the 2nd, it's like it really worked out just as if he would. Normally he'd be in the 7th round and he gets Serta. And
that's what I'm saying. This is kind of scary because this has like flashbacks of him and Paulie playing together, right? It could be dangerous.
They're gonna. I look at it's like we're going in. It's like
Shawnee is like, I mean
he's only gotten better. Like that
it's
backhand
crazy.
goal he scored on you. It's like
sick.
the fuck. So now he was always a hard worker. Now he's got
now he's got the hands to match.
Yeah.
So
when there's as playing as a defenseman, Shawnee is probably one of my least favorites. To have coming at me full speed one-on-one. I hate playing against him because he's always going by me.
He's one of the best guys, probably the best guy in the league, and one of the better, guys that I've ever played around that can split the defense. He just comes straight at you and splits the defense and has a little mini breakaway on the goalie. It's scary. He's very good at that.
Yeah, I mean, and then again, Todd, it's like he's so fat and he's so slow, so it's hard to justify moving him up too much. But it's like with him in round 8, it allowed them to, do what they got Todd in round 9. So then they get one bender in the 10th and then their goalie. So as bad as Todd is, like slow and physical, but he's a stay-at-home defenseman. He knows how to. You pair him with, they'll pair him with their good defenseman, and he'll just stand there and direct traffic. And then they're gonna be fucking awesome.
And Whoop can say what he wants.
We should have moved his ass up one more round.
If you throw Whoop at right wing, like he plays right wing on the Cape-Elks right now.
Yeah,
I love being on Whoop's line with a right wing because, like, unlike other benders, I can throw him the puck. He's going to catch the pass, and he knows exactly where to go with it.
Just chips it instantly, up, gets it out of there. Yep.
And that breakout instantly works. Where if you throw him there, that value is so great right there.
Mm-hmm.
Where
we should have moved him up.
They might not have drafted the team to allow him to play that right wing. He is so valuable there because he can do what most guys at that level can't do.
But if you move him up to 8, now you're putting Panny at 7. Like, that's not fair.
No, I think you could keep him, and Panny.
Panny has nowhere. That has nothing to do with it. But if it's like,
that's always been the general rule, though, is that
you can say, but you can say what you want. Like if you look at things like me and Whoop, I'm more athletic than Whoop. I'm faster than Whoop. I'm stronger than Whoop. But Whoop's.
Should we do a race?
Whoop is so much smarter as a hockey player than me. And his hands are so much better than me. It's not funny where it makes up that difference.
Right.
And it's not just about like, if you look at things like who can run a 50-yard dash faster, or who's can lift more weights, or blah, 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 blah. That's not what hockey's about.
No. As the draft was going on, I'm like, motherfucker, like, here we fucking go again, because it's like, so yeah, they're gonna be fucking good again because they don't have any bad skaters. It's like, but they have one. If you look at
who's their last round pick?
Jim Ellis. That's it. So they have one, but most teams have 2. Like they don't have. Like look at I don't know. So we'll see.
And Whoop is the goalie whisperer. So expect Alan Z to have another great season.
So let's go on to the Tigers then. So we have Andy Fem, kind of surprise of the draft. We have Ben Skillman, Kimmel, Shepard, Turnbull, Hawk, Math, Drago, Ryan Allen, and Hetes. Troy, we'll start out with you on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, last year the Tigers got a gift with Skillman in the 4th round, so he was more appropriately placed. So I thought they were kind of set up, to be okay. They didn't have an inherent advantage or disadvantage. The Fem pick, Fem was very good for them last year, so that didn't shock me. Do I think Sugar should have been drafted? Yeah, but I get why they did Fem. Then they had a chance to take Pete, and they passed over him for Ben. That was a little surprising because Pete has been good for the Tigers when he subbed for them. But all that being said, as the draft was going, I wasn't in love with their draft. But then when you look at it, they're going to have Skillman and Fem, and then they're going to have Ben and Kimmel, who were great for us last year. And they can play Ben and Kimmel on the second line like we did, and they were very productive on the second line, instant chemistry. And then they're actually built similar. They don't have like the Proctor superstar, but I feel like they're built similar to the Deeks. They have their they got their 2 lines with their, and then at the end they got Ryan Allen and Drago playing kind of the bender, right wing bender. And then they got Fem and Skillman, Ben and Kimmel, and then 4 boring. I don't mean that in a Shepard's better than boring, but you got Shepard, Turnbull, Hawk, and Math. So they got 4.
No crazy defenseman that's like, oh, this guy's just going to go out there.
But no bad one.
But no bad one either.
Yeah, when Math's your worst defenseman,
I'd take that all day.
You're in great shape. And then they got, again, with the last round lotto, like getting Hetes to, Hetes as what, the 4th goalie taken or 5th? 4th
That's
or 5th?
crazy.
No, 4th goalie taken. Like, they're going to be a tough team to play against. So again, they're another really good team. They just don't. What they don't have is just like a top end sniper. That if they struggle, it's going to be because they don't score enough goals.
Someone that can go out every shift and
can because Andy Fem is like, you can count on Andy Fem for his hard work, short shifts, great guy, and he's got a big shot. But he's not like this crafty stick handler that's going to get a ton of breakaways. So if they struggle, I think it'll be because they don't have the that
elite scoring.
Elite score.
So the Tigers are my team as of right now to miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think Fem's an awesome.
Scoring's at a premium.
Fem's an awesome player, but I do think if you put him on a line by himself, he's not going to get it done. And he, like you said, he's one of the things where he's fast. He fucking hustles, short shifts. All of that is fucking awesome. But you get a bunch of guys in his face, almost like the Proctor rule, the Desert Storm, anything like that. He's going to struggle. Ben's a guy you need to, put him on a line where he's either the B or the 1, the 1B type of guy, type of thing. Skillman finally probably got where he deserved to be as far as a keeper pick. So
it's funny because Skillman was talking about, I'm blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I take, look who the guys around. Like, I take Skillman over
all
Peso.
those guys.
I take Skillman over Turtle. So I'm not saying he's a great value, but I think he's right where if you put him in the draft, I think he'd go right about there.
Yeah, their defensemen aren't bad, but then there's also the Hetes factor. Hetes is not going to be back at the beginning of the year, from what I understand.
Right.
He's also going through physical therapy and supposed to be getting an MRI on his knee. That scares the hell out of me. So if I have to pick a team right now that's not going to make the playoffs, it's going to be the Tigers. Because for all I know is there could be some damage in Hetes' knee, and they have to sub down all year and screw themselves. So
we'll see. I mean, I will say
he's going to have a couple Mike's Hards, and he's going to be just fine.
We'll see. I mean, they'll sub down to Cam we'll see. I mean, I will say that last year was kind of like Fem and Skillman were their shutdown line, shut down Matt Taylor, and then Fister Judge
got to score the goals.
And Fister, that's a pretty dynamic duo.
Yeah.
So Ben and Kimmel were great for us. Yeah. But they're probably no one that's not Fister. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All that being said, like, we had those assholes down, like we should have beat, we had the Tigers, like we were right there with them, and boom, boom, boom. So who knows? We'll see. But Skillman is, he's been, I think he figures, Skillman puts a lot of thought into it, and I wouldn't bet against. I hear what you're saying. It wouldn't shock me if they missed the playoffs, but I think they're in.
Well, it's also one of the things where I think I agree with you. There's not like, I think it was last year, it was like, oh, the Americans, like that's the team right there. Or the one year, the Ducks, that's the team right there. I'm not saying that, but if I have to pick a team as of
one
right
team will miss
now,
the playoffs.
Yeah.
the Tigers are that team. But if they make the playoffs, is it going to surprise me? No. But that's my pick as of today. So we've already done the Maroons, so let's move on to our last team of the night, the Americans. So we have Captain Jack Serta, Judge Antioch, Dave P, Simonelli, Brawny, Kayla, Crunk, Weaver, Guma, and we have Big Cat Charles Mackey. So we'll go over to Coan first. Thoughts on the team?
Like I said, it was a little sauced up over there at 24 seconds, and I made a bet with Big Cat. And I think if he scores a goal on me this season, then I have to buy him a round of golf and vice versa. So
we'll probably bang one in off.
That's what I'm thinking.
But how many times? But how many games? How many? You play everybody? Is there 4 rotations?
There's only 4 rotations. I only have to stop him 4 times.
True. So I mean, well, does it count if he's a sub? I mean, you know,
we should have clarified that. Yeah. You're right.
I don't think that should count. I think it has to be for your. So you
his
have
team.
4 games. I'd say you're the favorite in that bet.
I thought so
but
too.
it wouldn't be shocking if he did. So.
Oh, Maki, I like Shepherd's Hollow. It's a good course.
Yeah.
I think they're a good team. Two guys that they drafted on defense. The 2 guys I always really like playing with is Brawny and Simmer. Those are both. So I think that's when you're looking at the team that has a good defense. I think they have a really good defense.
Yeah,
playing in front of a really
good
playing in front of a really good goalie. You know what I'm saying?
It'll be interesting if they play the two old chemistry guys together.
Yeah.
Obviously, the way it fell, you know, they're sitting there at 7. So Serta's not a surprise there. It's interesting how things change. If you recall 2 years ago, the fucking Nordiques handed the North Stars the keg because what was the trade? Pete for Judge, right? That was the trade that gave us the keg.
Right.
And we're sitting here and the Americans have the opportunity to take Pete and they take Judge. Yep. That was definitely a Crunk pick, you know, because you know from the spring, like Crunk is very high on Judge.
Yep.
I would rather take Pete because I think he's a more consistent worker. You know, Judge is a little flashier, so that pick could come back to haunt them. And then, of course, the Dave P pick. I mean, that was the shot heard around the world.
That was a shocking pick right there.
Now, I will say again, if Dave P had not rebranded himself as a defenseman, he would have fallen all the way to the end of the 4th, beginning of the 5th, because he just, as much as we all love Dave P, he just doesn't fucking score. So it's like, what's the point? You can have the puck the whole fucking night. If you don't score, who gives a shit? If you look at Dave P's stats last year, he played on the second line. They played Turtle and Taylor together on the top line. They scored 1,000 goals. Dave P played on the second line with Trent, and he scored 1 goal.
That's crazy.
Whole fucking year. That's insanity.
Right.
That's horrible.
Right.
So I know the plan is to play him as a defenseman, so that makes it a little bit more understandable. But is he a better defenseman than Alan Z? Is he a better defenseman than Chad? Is he a better defenseman than Wells? McShannock? I don't know. And then you throw the curse in there. So I love Dave P.
I think that was another Crunk pick, right?
Yeah.
He's on the spring team, and he's been doing really good on defense, man.
We'll see.
I'm really comfortable, and with
we
Davey
all love
back
Dave
there.
P.
Yeah.
Let's face facts, though. Dave P, he's a little man. He's easy to push around. He's light.
Dude, but he's gritty, man. He's really gritty.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
so,
you know what? My second cousin, who's 6 months old, is pretty gritty too. But it doesn't mean I can't just go boom and push them around.
They did, and then they were the first team. They took Kayla pretty freaking early. They
did.
So
they had their goalie in mind, and they wanted him.
Yeah, and the penalty for that is that. That was part of the trade. So they would have. So they could have taken. You know, like
maybe they wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the trade.
Yeah. So if they stay there, they take a Maff or a Bauer, and it gives them another defenseman. But because of that trade, they end up with they have a Weaver, Gumma, and C. Maki. So that I feel like they are one kind of forward. When I was doing their projected lines, like their second line was like a Weaver, even with Judge at forward. Let's just say you put Serta and Antioch together. You got Dave P on D, Alan Simonelli on D, Brawny on D. So their second line was Judge and Weaver. you know, and Weaver is a guy like a Jim Ellis. If he's your third forward, bonus land.
Right.
If he's your second forward, I think that's asking too much out of him.
But I think you're going to struggle to get past that defense to even get a shot on Caleb, who's a great goalie.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
I think they're going to be a very low scoring, a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games.
Yeah.
And
If I had to pick my one team that is missing the playoffs, it's the Americans.
Just because
I think they're one forward short.
Yep.
So the only way to rectify that would be to the only logical player to move up to forward is Dave P. Then you have Judge and Dave P. And we know,
and they're pretty much the same player.
And Dave P. doesn't score, so it's like
you can always work on a trade, right?
Yeah,
to find a team that's struggling at defense,
Yep.
right? We just went over a couple teams where you're like, oh, they don't really have a flashy defenseman.
Yeah.
You dangle a Simmer or a Braun in front of them,
and don't get me wrong, I try to make this very, very clear. I do not like. I thought 2 years ago, clear as day, after the draft, I'm like, the Ducks are gonna fucking suck, and I said that. And I was right. So if I thought the Americans were going to suck, I would say the Americans are going to fucking suck. I don't think they're going to suck. But if I have to pick one team based on what I'm looking at, I think they're the one team that misses the playoffs. But we'll see. That's the problem with recording these things. Fucking Whoop will pull it out of the fucking thing and make you, very easy, very easy to, after the fact,
right.
come down
I
and say
said that,
whatever.
didn't I? Didn't you hear me say that?
Yeah. So we'll see. But that's my one. That's my one team that'll miss the playoffs is the Americans.
The one thing about you're saying
and then
about
we might have to talk about relegation.
The one thing you're saying about recording these things, you have to have the guts to actually go out on a limb and say who's going to do stuff. Where you have someone like Whoop who's like, oh, Hetes, or no, actually, he accused Piercy of shitting on him when it was Hetes, but it is what it is, and that's one of the things with the podcast. It's like, oh, you guys have to do the podcast more. But then it's like, okay, me and Troy are in. Coan jumped in late. DP bails on us. It's like nobody else wants to do it. It's like, okay, yeah, it's back to Pierce's got to do it all, and whatever. But yeah, I think the Americans in my mind they were a number 6 team, type of thing. They had a tough draft. I mean, it was nice getting Antioch in the third, but they were, they didn't have the luxury of sugar falling to them, so it's like if they go chalk, but if they went chalk, they'd have Serta, Pete, Antioch, and then Kimmel. If that's a nice top 4. Yeah. If you
sprinkles just a slightly different way.
Well, that was the thing with the Americans.
And then you'd have that they could have, if they just followed chalk, they could have had Serta, Pete, Antioch, Kimmel, and then
the same decor.
Then a decor of Simonelli, Braun, Scheidel, Maff, and Maff and Crunk, and they would have been in good shape. And then Weaver as your Bender defenseman or Bender third forward.
Forward on the second line.
And I'm like, holy fuck, these guys got something going. So
when you're talking about that though, like when I'm looking at it, like Antioch's a fucking steal at the third round. Like realistically, like I don't know if we would have went edge like Antioch there, but we would have had some serious consideration at Antioch instead of edge. Yeah. We would have considered it. Like then all of a sudden you go all the way back instead of 9 to 21 for Antioch. Like that should set up the Americans.
He's got
big time.
I think it was I just think it was a couple there. Again, the margins are this close. So I think it was like that. The Judge pick I don't love, and the Dave P pick I don't love. And if they would have tweaked these things a little bit, but I like Antioch if they play together. I mean, that should be great because Serta will work his ass off.
Right.
Antioch will float in the high slot, and he'll do great.
And Serta's a great passer to get him that puck.
Yeah,
too.
But that second line, Judge, Weaver, Charles Mackey.
So I haven't talked a bunch about it, but like. The Antioch's great. I actually like the Judge pick. Like that was someone that we were looking at possibly as a second round guy. Dave P. I can't justify that. Like we talked about before, there's a lot of mid round defensemen. Like if you're going to play him at defenseman, I can't justify that there. Simonelli can say all he wants. Me and him were joking around and I kept saying, you're moving up. He's like, no. And all of a sudden he's going 35. I told him, that's got to be way too high for him. Braun's a good pick.
He brings
and then
he brings the pretzels to the locker room, some donuts from his kids' work.
Simmer's just he's crafty. He's a tall guy,
Yeah.
you know, and he's tough to get around.
Yeah.
And then he carries the puck more than you think. You know, he carries it up and he knows kind of. So yeah, he moved up. I mean, I knew he was moving up. I put him. I think I had him there in all my mocks. It's like because he's boring. He's good. He's reliable, and he's an awesome guy.
Right.
So.
In the first goalie in a draft is always risky because Kayla, he was a Maroon last year. We loved having him on his team. We thought we got a great value out of him.
Yeah, he's a good goalie.
But, saying, he went 54. I think you were second. You went 58. 4 rounds difference. But then all of a sudden you go to the next goalie, which... Let's see, we have 54.
It's Pongrazi, 71.
That's a huge difference all of a sudden. Can you justify that many picks between the goalies? I guess we'll find out.
Well, because they were at a bookend, right? And they like we were talking earlier, they didn't want to risk going all the way back around the snake. And then, they had a guy in mind that they wanted to take a certain goalie, and they grabbed him.
And that's where the Maroons, when we were looking at, we try to go through as many scenarios as we can. And it was just okay, the difference between, if we do 65 as a goalie versus 71 as a goalie, who are those two guys? And trying to add up our value was just as much as we'd love a little, a goalie, whatever. Actually, probably the difference was where we ended up wasn't even that much difference. We're we can't justify not going goalie in the 11th round.
I think sometimes it really does when the boys in front of the goalie feel comfortable with them, and they feel that they in a situation they could pinch, or they could maybe let up a breakaway because they were trying to force the situation offensively, trying to score a goal because they trust you on the back end. The team just plays better in front of you, right? So it just depends on a GM if you're concerned about that or not, or if you can kind of set that aside, or
It's tough though, because Kayla was fucking awesome last year. Dylan was awesome as well. But, it was me, Doug, Myers at the end, and, a lot of times Edge, type of thing. But, one of those lines was a little weaker type of thing. So it was just it's tough. We felt like sometimes, at least me and Doug, we probably were not giving Kayla the support he needed,
right?
Type of thing. And plus, we were losing games 2-1. We'd be up by a goal and give up a late goal in the third to go to overtime and lose the overtime or win the overtime type of things. It's tough because we feel like we weren't doing our goalie. We weren't justifying our goalie's ability in those situations
because you weren't getting enough goals in the net. Yeah,
right.
It's all about run support.
Yeah, it's what is it, DeGrom or whatever on the Mets? He's got a 1.4, 1.5, ERA, but he's 0-14 because the Mets are giving up 2 runs a game, or putting in a 0 runs a game when it's support.
I think you're gonna see an all-time low for GAA this season. I really do.
Well, we lost. I mean, we lost Suits and Drake and replaced them.
Replace them with lowers, and we've built up again that mid to late defensive grouping. So I think I really do think it's going to be the first team to 3 guarantees a win, and first team to 2 gives you a really good chance to win a game, which is crazy and beer league hockey.
Yeah. I do believe the league is going to be slower this year, just based on the people who left the league, the players who are coming in, and that might not be in some ways it's a bad thing because
lure Wilkie back.
Well, the interesting part though is that will make, as much as I said I don't like the Whalers that much and blah blah blah. But when you have a guy like Matt Taylor
on any given night can score 3 goals,
that just makes him even that much more value. It's it might not even matter, because he's the only one. Again, just the same thing with Dave P. All the puck possession. It's these other teams might be better and have a little more puck possession, but it's you don't fucking score, it doesn't fucking matter. That was the old Proctor. It's when we the Nordiques, it's or whoever the hell it was. It's oh, we carry the play the whole time, but then the puck squirts out and Proctor scores. It's it's just so fucking deflating. It's we've had all this zone time, nothing to show for it. Puck squirts out to Proctor, he fucking scores. It's
right.
Motherfucker, the fuck, So We shall see.
Yeah.
But it's set up to be another good. But to your point, Piercy, like what you're talking about, the Maroons, like the Maroons last year were one forward short, I thought, and being like a really for the difference of being a top 4 team or top 2 team, and the Americans. Again, I hate to harp on, but I feel like when you start comparing teams' second lines,
Right.
I think the Americans are one forward short on that second line, and that's the difference between like the margins are so tight. Like that's the difference.
Yeah.
The way I see it.
And it's really a tough thing. Like, not really on the agenda tonight, but whatever. But like, what is the advantage versus the non-advantage of like where your draft spot is? Like, essentially, if everybody has a perfect draft, no matter what, where's the biggest advantage at?
Yeah, well, I mean that changes year to year because and on the format and what I mean.
I kind of feel like it's 3, like as of this year.
Yeah, I mean 3 was a good spot because they still got a very high end player. And again, the North Stars have rarely been in that position. Like I've never had a Proctor, never had a Matt Taylor, never even had a Pfister. We've had now we did have the first pick of the draft the very first year, and we took Pete, who was great, but we had never seen Proctor play.
And you had traded your second
and the
overall
one year
pick
that we had the second
year.
pick, we traded it.
Yeah.
But again, if that was the league there was no Matt Taylor, there was no Pfister. That was a Proctor and then a Sugar.
Yeah.
It
was a very clear 1A, 1B.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Now we got a C and a D.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. But and again, like in a true snake draft, the one it like no offense to Sam Maki, but it's like if we do the 10 rounder and you're locked in with a Sam Maki with no ability to trade out of that, that's one thing. But if the last player is like, if there's a Charles Maki, Jim Ellis, Justin Wright, like I don't think that there's this big differentiate. So you got the clear best player in Matt Taylor, and is Jim Ellis, C Maki, Justin Wright,
right? They're all
Vanandi, they're all the same. So you're not penalized. Whereas this year, Hale is. We'll see, but Hale hasn't played in 2 years, and he's 50 some years old.
But he's got new skates though, so he's getting a lot of smoke out there for the.
We'll see, but we didn't have that true snake, so then it was guys got to choose.
I heard he's also a great beer guy in the locker.
He is.
Hale's awesome.
We got a lot of beer snobs on the Deeks this year. We got Panny and him and Floreno and Chris Taylor.
And I will say, Hale knows his game. Like,
he knows his role.
He goes to the fucking front of the net. Whether it was Pete, Pete shot about 8 goals off his ass. That's my number one complaint with Ty is that
he doesn't go to the front of the net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He loves to hang out in the offensive corner and be like, he thinks he's like,
I'm reffing this game. What's going on?
He fancies
guys?
himself like Adam Oates, this big playmaker. and Ty, whereas Ty is good at compared to some of the late round guys is like in that neutral zone, making the cross ice pass. Like he's good. He's better than his contemporaries in the neutral zone and being an outlet. But then it's like, you are a 10th. You're not going to fucking deke anybody. Just plant your 300 pounds. Plant yourself in front of the fucking net and make a mess.
Wide
like that's what Charles does. That's what Hale does.
Yeah.
And if Ty did that, he'd score a lot more goals.
He would.
But he refuses to do it. I don't know why. And the handful of times that he does, he's had some results. But, oh well.
Well, coach him up.
Yeah, but he won't. Yeah. That's what
So if we had to wrap this up, I'm going to start with you, Coan. Who's missing the playoffs this year?
Probably the Americans. Lack of scoring.
And I've already said the Americans.
I think I said the Tigers.
You did.
You did. Yeah.
And we'll start with Troy this time.
I should say it's lack of secondary scoring for the record. It's not, they got guys that can obviously put the puck in the net. I'm not concerned about that.
And who's winning the cup? Or the keg? Sorry, keg.
I'll give you, I think it'll be, God, I fucking hate to say this, but I feel it'll be a North Star Seals finals. God, I fucking hate that. I don't want the Seals to be in the finals. No, take that back. God, no, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to. We're going to go old school. North Stars, Nordiques.
I was thinking the same thing. I was really thinking that we're going to get a repeat of that, and I think it's going to be another low-scoring battle.
Okay, I will go a little bit different. I'm going to say the Whalers and the Maroons.
Well, you have to. You guys have a great squad as well. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I think
That one surprised me.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we talked about it. I think, obviously edges are kind of a dark horse, but if he's, he put up double-digit goals last year. If he does it again, plus a little bit more because he's playing forward all the time.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to play you guys. You guys got a lot of that
we got a lot of grit.
Yeah.
We got a lot of toughness. We'll probably have a lot of penalties.
Yeah, I can't wait to have Q-tip crash in the net on me all
I
season.
feel like I think you have to have, like, when push comes to shove and you need to, like, the Tigers, I think, are going to be a real solid team. They remind me of the North Stars last year. Like, we were really solid. We got a lot out of what we could, but we didn't have, when it push came to shove, we didn't have a bona fide goal scorer. So
right, when you're down a goal late in the third.
Yep. So I think the teams that can win it are the Whalers, the Nordiques, the North Stars, the Seals, and the Maroons. Because I do think I will agree with Piercy and say Sugar is. I'm not saying he's he's in the conversation. I think there's a notch there, but I think he's a good enough player where it gives the Maroons a chance.
And Duffel Bag Boy 12, I'd like to thank you for your Twitch Prime subscription.
Oh, okay.
But Duffel Boy 12?
I don't know. One of our new guys, I guess.
We love him. Doesn't matter. Also would like to hear some, if you want to send me some posts. I set up a profile to stream to YouTube instead of Twitch. There's some people who really like that instead of Twitch. They thought it was a better idea.
Okay.
Let me know in case we do some more podcasts in the future of where you'd like to see that.
I think we need to remind people, if the podcast will at least be semi-regular, maybe when we get some preseason games going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But remind people to get the Whoop line. I mean, the Whoop voicemails the Whoop line voicemails are legendary. When you go to Grandma Gio, you go to the Hulkster, Billy Baloney. I think the Whoop line.
Oh, that might be J. Cole. Seeing some stupid Texan that yelled out.
That could be
love the Texan boy.
And on that, in that regard, so I don't know exactly when the spring summer season ends, but if there's any ice available, we have the ice contracted through August. So as soon as that spring season ends, we will resume, preseason games.
Awesome.
Try to get every team at least one game and maybe two. And then I've been known to, if there's some cheap random ice, maybe I'll buy that and try to get a couple scrimmages. But I think everyone, once the draft's done, I think everyone wants to kind of chomping at the bit to get some preseason action.
It's a little weird to do it while we're still playing spring, but yeah.
I'm saying in that kind of second half of August.
Yeah, awesome.
Can't wait to see the jerseys too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
still waiting on the mock-ups.
Still waiting on the mock-ups. So far, everybody who saw the Maroons jerseys have been fans of as of right now.
They look pretty sweet.
What
Hopefully,
color did you end up going with?
we're blue, baby.
Oh, cool.
Blue with a little more,
like a dark blue.
They
Like
have a little
you said, like the
Colorado
avalanche blue.
We're almost we're an avalanche kind of concept.
I think that's awesome, man.
It looks
gonna look really good.
It looks pretty good. I like our concept.
The funny thing, whatever. We're an hour and 40 some minutes in. Turn off the podcast if you don't fucking like it. But there's a point of in the ivory tower where we wanted to go white originally. We wanted to do a Harvard kind of type thing. And the Seals were like, yeah, we want to go white. So we're like, okay. And Doug was like, okay, maybe we'll do maroon, maybe we'll do teal. Then we're like avalanche. And then I found this concept of some fan concept. We're like, yeah, this will fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, this is what we're doing. Then fucking Todd out of nowhere was like, we kind of want to go blue/teal. We're just like, go fuck yourself, because we wanted to go white and you claimed white and we let you have it. So
are the Seals are going white in the concept, presumably?
I don't fucking know. I hope so. I don't care. But all I know
it's
is
a mess that they haven't gone with that teal color yet.
Yeah.
All I know was it was essentially the Deeks are not going blue, a baby blue type of thing.
They tried to do the teal one time, and it wasn't in the dangle sauce blend of colors. Or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It was
possibly.
But it was the Deeks are going red right now. We found this really cool mock-up that we could use for the Maroons that are a blue color.
Yeah.
I think Doug sent it to me. I think it looks really cool.
And the Seals were like, we're going white. So we're like, okay, we'll do it. And then all of a sudden they were like trying to be like, we're going to go blue/teal. We're like, no.
The funny thing is, I don't know if someone, like, we went yellow, not because I was itching to go yellow, but to try to, like, do everyone a favor. And then I think green wound up being available. I don't know if anyone's using green or if
I thought the Whalers
are they going to do green?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it all works out. But
That's-
I like our concept. I don't love the yellow, but we'll see how.
As long as it's not highlighter, you're good.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, it's just we haven't even seen the first kind of mock-ups yet, so we can tweak them and go from there.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it though, and then maybe this will be the first year in MNL history we have the jerseys.
Don't get
on
too
week
excited.
one. That's why it's like, man, I'm like the whole point of racing to have this
The draft
which I think is backwards. Like it is what it is. It went off, and hopefully we don't have anything. But it's like I've always felt this, to rush the draft just for jerseys makes no sense to me. But
Right, but you don't want to play half the season without a jersey.
Yeah,
So
we'll see.
That's like, here's one of our future concepts right here.
Yeah,
okay, kind of like a Washington Redskin type vibe.
yeah.
Washington Football Club.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
more to
Washington Football Club.
My apologies.
Flip the eagle to the M. Like
Yeah.
we got
There's
like
some cool-
six or seven like Maroons. Like anything as a Maroon or an M. Like we could do that in the future. Like let's go.
The internet is good for. There's some cool concepts out there that people come up with that you can kind of steal.
Oh, definitely. But
Or did you show that to us, or is that on the?
this should be
Twitch.
share. Oh shit! I didn't. Nope. That should not be shared as of right now. Let me do that real quick in case you're watching.
And this isn't even your concept. Put the one up there. You should put the concept that you're actually gonna.
We'll do a quick share of future possible jerseys, and then
There it is. I think that's gonna look really good.
I
Yeah.
believe that's what we're going for this year as well.
Okay.
If
That's
it comes,
good.
if it comes out close to that, I've always been a fan of that kind of that's not exactly like, but the flyers with like the orange and then the white nameplate. I've always been a fan of that. I think that looks kind of cool. So yeah, we'll see. The North Stars are going with a and I know everyone hates this, but we like it. But so do you know the old school LA Kings, like the purple with the crown? It's like kind of
Yes.
the Jimmy Carson era. And then that's our concept with our version of the crown. The Kings of the North
Kings
crown.
of the lovely.
So-
That's funny because
I think that, I think that should look pretty sweet, but we'll see.
because when Joey was supposed to be and Doug were supposed to be together and they picked the Maroons, before that I was like, if I was a team, I kind of want to be the Kings. Like even though it's not like whatever exhausted team, and I was like, you could be like the Laker colors and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm looking for. I like the old school North Stars N is awesome, but when you've done it 3 years in a row, it's like, and you have it in every color. It's like I know some people didn't like our jerseys last year, but it's like I don't need to have the same jersey 5. It's.
I
tough when
kind
you're
of
on
felt
your
like
fifth.
last year you guys should have used like a military type green
Yeah,
because of
that'd be
like
so cool.
because you had the kind of the military.
I agree.
That would have been pretty. That would have been sweet right there.
Yeah,
but
That would look really
Because
cool.
we were definitely going with kind of the military theme. So
Mhm.
yeah, a little darker instead of the Kelly green, a little darker green. But
just to kind of start wrapping stuff up, looks like I'm assuming we're looking for the season to start the Monday after Labor Day.
that's the historical start date every year, Monday after Labor Day. Yep.
I don't know, and I actually I didn't like it at first, but then I liked it as the season went on. Since the Maroons are the new team, having the bye the first week, it kind of like at first it was like, oh, we're not playing the first week, but then it was always like, we're always a game behind. We're looking at those standings.
Yeah, it's nice
it's like,
to have that little in the back pocket.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, there's 3 teams that are already like tied with us, but we're 1 game behind.
Yeah, I think Panny will just put it in the randomizer. Obviously, it'll be the history is that you get the keg matchup in week 1, so it will be Tigers versus Seals, and then how they do everything else, I don't know. I'm sure if a team wants to volunteer for the bye, I'm sure Panny would happily give it to you.
Yeah, like I said,
I don't think I could handle getting that first week bye. I'd be foaming at the mouth, but it is what it is.
I didn't personally like it. Kind of sucked like the first week, but after that, it was like the rest of the time it was like that's great.
It's all going to work out in the wash,
Yeah.
And I do like
You don't want to be that last strat, the last bye week, because you're like
that's what
sitting
you
there.
guys were. It's
You're sitting there hoping. You're hoping a couple teams lose. You're like watching the schedule.
I agree. Having that game in hand is a nice little thing mentally, for sure.
Right.
But so I agree with you.
Yeah, if we look at the spring schedules, the finals go till 8-9, so that means
if does he have 3? Is it 2 out of 3, or is it just one? Oh, it looks like it's just one.
Looks like it's 1 out of 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 8-9. So that would give us the I can't do math there. 16, 23, and 30. So we'd have 3 weeks. 3 weeks of preseason, and we have it for 9 and 10. So that's 4 games a night. So I think every team would get 2 games in.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have 2 preseason games for every team kind of coming up to the year. I'm really doubtful we'll get our jerseys on time, but we're ahead of the game. We haven't actually seen like final mock-ups on that, but I think on our side we've done the best we can.
Yeah. Usually we have the earliest we've had the draft before is kind of like July 13th, 14th, 15th, and then you muck around for a week, and then you get the order in like the 20th. Like if we could get the order submitted next week sometime,
right,
we might have a chance.
Yeah, I don't know how that goes. I assume they want to send us some final like mock-ups. Like, are you good with how these look?
That's what I'm getting at. So it's like if we could get the mock-ups by early next week, tweak them, and then get the order finalized by the end of the week, I think we have a chance. In a non-COVID world. I will say that Rebirth, we didn't get the order in any earlier than we did with Dangle Sauce, and it was COVID. And what did we have them like the second week?
Yeah.
So
with no drama too.
Exactly. Whereas Dangle Sauce was always the second, third, fourth, fifth week, and that was a pre-COVID world. So Rebirth in a non-COVID world, we might have a chance. It could happen. First time
and
ever,
Dangle Sauce, part of their problem is not letting us know. Like communication's the key. It's like, it's gonna be due on this date. It's like, that's week 3. Like
they were horrible.
We
and
get
then I
it.
always felt the socks were just a throw-in. Like, here's your jersey, and then we'll throw you a fucking 12 different pairs of socks, different sizes.
Yeah.
Not even different sizes. That's okay, but like some of them look different than the other ones. Like there was no the socks were, or it's like we got you. They're always behind, so it's like we'll get the jerseys in, then the socks come in another like 3 weeks later.
Right.
But oh well.
So
time to go.
We might have covered this, but if you had a keg winner, who's it going to be?
We did the keg finals.
We just did the finals. Well, Theeks are winning. So
yeah, we can't vote. I mean, I guess if
everybody's going to pick their own team.
If you're choosing me to pick a non-North Stars team, then I would go.
I'd probably go Seals. Seals are North Stars.
Who did the Seals have this year with Shawnee? Serta and Rattler.
Mm-hmm.
This year they have Pete. I don't think the Seals have enough this year. So if it's not the North Stars, then I am going to go with the Whalers.
Yeah, I'll go Whalers as well.
But I don't know.
For reference,
maybe Deeks.
I'm not gonna modify.
I don't feel strong this year.
I'm not gonna modify the audio to get it uploaded to the podcast feed till tomorrow morning / the YouTube video. So you people have to wait. But I don't know how the podcast will go this year. I know we have people like Dylan and Fister and Troy who claim they're going to be doing, we have the stuff ready to go.
I can see that was always, DFP and Dylan wanted to do it. They have the time. I simply don't have the time to do it every week. It's just not an option.
I just like showing up and talking about hockey on
TCS. Trust me, if I was a single guy, I would happily do it. But it just in my life of 4 children, I just can't do it every week. I do have access.
Do you work too?
Yeah, I know. I do have access to that studio, which was nice. It was better than nothing. But I guess with you, Piercy, it's like if would you want people in, if you're watching your TV relaxing on the couch and have other people use your equipment? I don't know. You tell us.
It's not that. It's probably more of the time.
Yeah.
I like doing the podcast. I have fun doing it. The 9:00 time's probably tough. It's also tough to rank.
You preferred it earlier? Like an 8?
You know, if it's like a Tuesday, Thursday, yeah. If it's like a weekend thing, I don't care.
Yeah.
But the weekend thing is not as fun to do, obviously. And it's also, I like doing it. I think it's good for the league, but it's also.
I like doing it right after too. You got to do it on You got to do it Tuesdays. Yeah. Everything's fresh.
Yeah, if it's like
you could do 8 o'clock. I mean, I
if
think
it's like a 7 a.m.
originally,
thing,
like the 9 was for me because I got kids and I got to put them to bed. But it's like if you're with your like Dylan doesn't fucking matter.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know. There'll probably be very little people listening to this point of the podcast, but it's like people like Piercy, why don't you do the podcast? Blah blah blah. But it also comes down to the point of like, hey, let's do another podcast. Troy volunteered. Coan was a late volunteer.
Oh.
And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I have to hunt for all these people to do the podcast, blah, 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 blah. And it becomes because of trouble. And it's part of the reason why, if you look at like the YouTube video, I just have 3 video feeds, or 4 if we had 4. And I'm not doing the whole stats thing and the standings things and like the bottom line thing, because it's a pain in the ass and I have to work and I have to do all this other bullshit as well. So like, if we come down to like an earlier time,
8 o'clock, and we got to get this. People actually have to use the sign up list. And when you fucking commit, you can't commit and then bail 2 hours before. Dave, don't commit too early.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I came, because I'm not gonna lie, I was dozing off on the couch.
Yeah.
Stayed up last night. You know, we had I camped all weekend, and then we had the draft on Tuesday. And I stayed up for the Stanley Cup game last night, and I was dozing off, and I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to get made fun of for bailing. So.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where hopefully, you hear Chad. He now lives in Royal Oak.
Oh, he does, yeah.
I think Chad's a good podcast kind of guy.
He's great. A lot of these guys
good thoughts, good. He's good at, bringing out his thoughts. You've heard Charles before. He's good on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Annie's great. I'm surprised Annie doesn't do it more
Me
often.
too.
I mean, he does a lot.
He does a lot of other stuff too.
I don't mean that as like you don't do enough, but he's good at it, and it seems like it'd be something that he enjoys.
When you're just a co-host, life is good. You just kind of show up and talk about stuff for a little bit. But...
Hetes moving back.
Yeah,
you get those guys where if my life becomes easier, I can do it more.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna post this tonight. I'm gonna post it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, don't kill yourself. But I do think as a standing, I think Tuesday at 8 o'clock. I agree with Coan. Like, if by the time if you don't do it on Tuesday, then by Friday or Saturday you've already forgotten.
Yeah.
So I think.
But I think sometimes some of those are the best podcasts, because the emotions are still. If it was a big game or whatever, the emotions are still there.
Yeah.
And you're
Tuesday's obviously the best day to do
Tuesday at 8.
All right.
But it's also like you said, 8, 7, something like that, where it's like record it, get it done by 10.
Right.
Tuesdays at 8.
Piercy's getting older. He has to go to bed.
So. Worst case scenario, like the podcast feed on iTunes and all that, like, and on YouTube, like, it gets posted like the next day at night.
Yeah.
Like, you can deal with that if you don't listen to it live. Type of
nobody cares. I mean, it's awesome that you get it cranked out, but it's not the end of the world.
Don't kill yourself, buddy.
The people, if you care about it that much, then watch it live.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna watch it on the way in, you can watch it on Wednesday or Thursday. So.
But but at the end of the day, if you want to be involved and you want to come in and do it, like if I have people that are easy to do it, especially if I have people who are like, here's what our format should be, like that kind of stuff takes, and that's part of the reason where if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching it live, I got rid of the whole standings, assist, like goal leaders, all that kind of stuff, the bottom line stuff, like that takes me like
I don't think
couple
people really
hours.
care anyway.
Yeah, it takes me a couple.
Very slick and it looks cool, but
if
it's taking that much time,
it looks cool, but it took me a couple hours to do, and it's like I don't have time for that.
No worries, man. We know you're a big shot over there, General Motors. Now it's all good.
Yeah, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like if we want to do this, like I like it. I have fun doing it. I didn't spend blah 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 on these fucking microphones and all that. Whatever. I don't care, but let's have fun doing it. People come in, people volunteer to come in it. Guma, Dave P, whatever. Come in, let's do it. Let's post it. We're good to go.
Yep.
But don't bail. Do it, sign up, check your schedule before you commit, and then live up to your commitment.
Speaking of boys bailing, I think I'm out.
Me too. It's bedtime.
Yeah.
Bedtime.
Anything else to wrap up the day?
Go
No.
Deeks. Play Kesha. Let's go, boys.
Yeah. It's gonna be a fun year.
Do you still hate?
I feel bad. I feel bad.
Do you still hate me, Troy?
Don't hate. Never hated Pearson. I do feel bad. Like I don't want to pick against the Americans. You know. It's
I
like,
know.
I feel bad. So maybe it'll shock the world. Prove me wrong. Go America. Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.
I mean, you did.